If you guys have comment, please, please, I guess come up to the podium and speak since we have the microphone there. But I will open the meeting like we open all of our meetings with public input if there's anything that anybody wants to add or say or nothing. Seeing none. So this should be a relatively short meeting. We don't have a ton of information, but the meat of the information that we do have is an update from Steve. And I will go through these. They're kind of small, so I tried to fit them on one page, but I'll go through these in detail. He responded that I asked him for an update. He responded that the installation is going well. They were off-site yesterday, but I believe they're going back out. The DPW is going back out starting next Tuesday to remove the baseball field and fence. The O'Brien and Sons contractors are going to be out there every day, but just the DPW is not going to be out there. They're doing work at the landfill, I believe. We had voted at the Friends of Roberts Field Committee meeting to pay for the handicapped accessible digger and the stationary digger in the sandbox. So Steve confirmed that those had been ordered, but there's not a delivery date associated with that just yet. He was looking for confirmation that we wanted to flip the location of the
Hillside Climber?
The hillside climber and the what he's referring to as the log steppers and climbing rock, which I think we're going to refer to and talk about as the climbing rocks. We'll talk about that later. But basically, it's moving the rocks over to that upper area closer to the grassy area that would sort of make that corridor there the natural play area. So in essence, the hillside climber gets moved closer to the
Zipfers?
Yes, thank you. And then the rocks or the steppers, wherever we net out on that, gets moved closer to the open area.
Mm-hmm.
Whoops, sorry.
So do we need to confirm that with him? I think that's something we were all in agreement.
Yes. So are we? I'm assuming we're all in agreement. We've talked about it before. So are we all in
Yes.
agreement that we want that switch to be made?
All in agreement? Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll confirm with
Okay.
him if that's the case. He recommends that the new entry be outside the fence to not interfere with the poured in place and flow of the walkway. So that is, we had talked about, I think it was Terry Duffy had suggested that we split the fence of the new covered bridge entryway, that we split the fence half and half out with the new entryway. And the problem that creates is that it puts a post in the middle of the poured in place down on the lower corner where the Netplex is. So Steve is recommending that we position it outside of the fence like it shows here. And I'm okay with that. I understand the problem that it creates. The only solution to doing the split that we had asked for would be to actually move the whole perimeter of the walkway over, but then that creates another problem of having to have some kind of a border between the poured in place and the brick pathway.
There is another alternative, but he didn't seem very interested in doing it, which is just pouring concrete in that corner outside of the fall zone.
Right.
Which, if it's a big pain, then
Like the little almost triangle-y corner
right,
thing?
just
Okay.
where you would have to put down from what I could tell, and perhaps I'm wrong, but I thought he said, no, I guess it was the other thing he was going to mark up, was that you could put something other than, it looks like there's enough space in that outside the dotted line fall zone. That's where the entryway would be going into the ground, but
It looks.
he didn't seem particularly keen on that. So.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
I like it like this.
It looks
I don't
close.
know what the...
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so yep.
So we're in agreement that we'll move the entryway outside of the fence line, like it's shown in that map that we just had up. Okay, so then this is the next thing. So I strongly recommend that the fence along the rear of the hillscape stepper area be pushed back about 8 feet, and the three flag trees be removed so the gate can be placed where it was originally proposed. This allows for a larger grass landscape area inside the fence, as any equipment could drive outside the fence as well as not having to turn equipment inside the fence. So I'm going to go to the board on this one.
Thanks.
Can I ask a quick question about the bridge while you're up there?
Yes.
Does that mean that if we have the bridge outside, does it looks like it comes onto where the path was supposed to be for the inner walking path?
Yeah, I don't think that's This is just a kind of a placeholder, so I wouldn't expect that that this
That
orientation is going to
interferes.
be there. Yeah, so
Okay,
Right.
they'll just adjust it.
there'll be some kind of adjustment, and then it's coming up on another point too that we asked him if he would. This is going to be the new engraved brick pathway. If that he would just extend that pathway so that it ends up connecting to this outside of the right outside of the fence. So there might be a little bit of a pathway, depending on where the walking track ends up. There may be a little bit of an extension of the brick pathway out to meet that. The other option would be to have the gravel pack meet up with this. So.
The trees and the fence,
Thank you.
yeah.
So we have
No, it's a-
three
it's a
trees
con-
that were
yeah.
marked here. They weren't part of the original inventory, but they are American chestnut trees, I believe. Is that?
There was one tree, which is the oak, which is shown on the plan, and then there were two American elms that you
These guys that were right here?
if I may.
Thanks, yeah.
They're probably located right in about here.
Okay, yeah, I could turn around on this map.
Yeah.
So the existing plan without the change that he's asking for, and this faces sort of the back of the property, right?
Right.
So the gate would be along the side, along the one of the ends of the zip cruise, and there's that 12-foot space between the back of the zip cruise and the climbing section, and then what would be the thing. And these three trees are preventing this piece from being put in. He wants to extend it because this will allow him to move the gate from here to here, and allow him to drive the tractors in to move the mulch and then to get into any equipment if they need to. It also allows him access to the back of this to keep this area mowed as well. So as I understand it, if those three trees are there, it's basically going to hamper his ability to get and clear out and keep maintained this area in here.
Which is all that bittersweet, right?
Correct.
That they just want
Right.
to keep mowed, kind of like a maintenance.
And it turns out, from personal experience, poison ivy.
Oh, not surprising.
And poison ivy too.
If they take down those three trees, all of the stuff that's behind it that's tall, is that all going to go down too? Are those like the barrier trees that have been keeping the other?
I think we've marked the trees that were still alive. Would that
Right.
be correct?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of dead stuff in there that really should come out,
Uh-huh.
but I have to question the need to take those three trees down. But I've made my statement on that.
I think you have questioned the need to take those three trees
Well,
down.
I mean, we were both out there and saw it kind of
Yeah.
firsthand. So what was your impression?
I
Can I
can,
sit down?
I,
Can we give us-
yeah. No, we'd like you to sit. I can understand what his concern is with the fence. It is awkward back there. The angle is really weird to get the vehicle around, because what this map doesn't show is the slope and there's topographical weirdness back there. So I'm not a fan of taking down trees if it's not needed, but I can appreciate, and they're still covered in bittersweet debris as it is, and I mean, I'm okay with them coming down, I guess.
Well, the trees that we inventoried, the three that he's talking about, have no bittersweet on them.
I don't think there's any live bittersweet, but I think there's dead.
No, we spent some time taking the bittersweet out of those two elms and the oak. The other stuff hasn't been inventoried because it was gonna be dead and wasn't worth being inventoried. But they still went ahead and damaged the tree over in the corner that was flagged. So
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I'm not a fan of cutting down trees.
yeah. And I question whether if he wants to extend it 10 feet, whether those trees really have to come down or not.
I honestly feel like, because I had the same questions, and that's why I wanted to go out and talk to him about it. And just from looking at it and looking at the position of the marks on the ground as to where the fence line would have to go if they did remain, I could see that there would be that those three would definitely impede the ability of them to keep that area, to get vehicles behind the fence. I mean, that was my takeaway on it, so.
I haven't seen it, so
Yeah, I mean, I guess,
I go with you guys that have been out there and seen it.
again, I generally don't like taking trees down, but I can appreciate the situation as it is, that particularly with the topographical things going on back there, that I'm okay with taking the trees down.
I haven't seen it recently. I personally think of American elms as, something that, are rare enough at this point that I wish we could transplant them, but that's awfully difficult and expensive to do, to get the right machinery for it. So I will abstain because I don't have a clear picture.
Okay. We have time. Do you want to spend another, wait for the next meeting and go out and take a look at it and see what, for yourself, kind of how it shapes up? I don't want to force a decision on you. Or we can force a decision.
Danielle, do you want to go out too?
I honestly don't have time. It's not going to be
Okay.
possible for me.
Yeah, I mean,
So I believe, yes, I
You can
generally don't
kind
want
of
to take
see
them
the
down, but
trees.
I defer to them here if they both
Okay.
feel it provides a maintenance issue,
Let's
because
see.
that's super
It's from far
important to
away.
keep that mowed back there so the bittersweet doesn't come back. Take down a couple to save
So is the
some other stuff.
overhead one of the trees?
No. You see the orange
Yes.
things? Those. So I'm taking a picture from like the front of the park, and so you can kind of see back of you can see things straggling down from the upper canopy of the ones that we're trying
Yeah.
to save. They don't look like they're. Let me try to.
And I can see
scroll
where the
things.
drop off hit.
Yeah, it's really awkward. Yeah, I had better pictures, but they were on my old phone.
That died.
Yeah. Actually, they were on my intermediary phone.
I know it's not a one-to-one offer to satisfy you, Jim, but he did offer to replant trees. So there's at least the opportunity to replace.
I can appreciate that.
Especially if we can grab one of those copper beeches.
Well, my concern is, do they do it right?
No, I agree. Yeah. I
My
hear you.
problem is, since I've been in Chelmsford, I've never seen them plant a tree right once.
Okay, but that's separate from what I mean.
Right.
If we
yeah,
can
I
get a tree.
understand. The elms don't bother me.
Okay.
That's the reason I originally didn't inventory them, is because you've got a big elm in the back that's just died. So the Dutch elm disease is there. These two are probably, within 5 years, are probably gonna die.
That's a
Okay.
shame.
But that oak,
Yeah.
that's a different issue. And to be honest, remember the apple tree and the maple tree that he wanted to take down? Why? No reason. One had sapsucker damage and the other one had apples. So there's always gonna be this, well, it's a maintenance issue.
And I appreciate that.
And-
That's why I wanted to go
I'd
out
like to
and look.
finish,
I'm sorry. go
because
ahead.
what he wants is the field out there that could be mowed, and that's it. To him, that's low maintenance. Sending somebody out once a week to mow it for 20 weeks a year is fine. That's not a maintenance issue. But having trees and other things, terrible. He's already cut 15 trees down over by that oak tree there. So I see a very strong bias to take trees down. And excuses can always be made. It's this, it's that, doesn't look good, I don't like it, it's gonna die eventually. That was one of his statements, well, we're all gonna die. I don't think we necessarily want to hasten the process, so. Again, I question whether there's it's really necessary, particularly with that oak.
Is the oak the closest or the farthest one?
I think that's the farthest one. And even if he wants to run the fence through the protection zone, you put your post outside the protection zone.
Yeah, I think it's less about it's less about the fence line and more about the access that the trees end up blocking because they can't get the vehicles around the back of where the fence is going to be. That's the
Well, he's got a tremendous amount of stuff that's gonna have to come out back there. And you can't drive around a tree?
Not the way that tree is.
yeah. I mean
I don't think-
I can't. I can just say what I saw, and I felt like I could understand his position of that it was going to impede on the future maintenance, and that it would make it difficult for the vehicles to get into the fence located where that opening is, where it says 10-foot gate. So, do you guys?
Would it help for us to take a walk out there before the next meeting?
I walked out there. Bill's walked out there. I mean, I was all for saving the trees, and I went out there, and I was like, no, I really can't. I mean, in general, I'm all for saving the trees, but at this point, I'm good with taking them down. I think it's, and I'm good with moving on to the other stuff so that we're not here till 10:30.
I think if as Elizabeth says, if it's not just the location of the tree in terms of grass, but the topography, that makes it very difficult. If it would make things easier in terms of the fence line and everything, for them to be able to manipulate the ground at that point and really level out. I think that's probably something of value. It exchanges value in terms of the playground.
So you're in support of?
So I'll support it, yeah.
Okay. All right.
So we all support it.
Okay.
For the right reasons, good.
What?
I said you're doing it for the right reasons, good.
It has been well considered. I don't feel like people are making this decision lightly.
Okay, so the next item was he said that the shade structure is going to be here, best case, the week of the 18th. He said there's been a delay in the manufacturer's end on that. So I would assume that that means that it probably won't be in place for the June 23rd grand opening, but I don't, that's just my implication from that. I know you had sent him an email about moving the shade structure, and he just simply said that he does not endorse moving the shade structure. We talked with him a bit about that when we were out there talking about the trees.
He said he was going to mock it up. Did you see any mock-up of it?
I did not see a mock-up.
Part of the problem is that the papers, or the plan we were going off of, it's apparently still the smaller shade structure up there. So that's not actually the size of what we're actually talking about. That would be the 12 by 18.
Yeah, I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I just don't think it's at scale. I don't think that shade structure is scale. That's because that little insert thing is what came over from Weston, and I don't have complete faith that that's to scale.
Yep.
But what I think his main issue was that he felt like if we moved it over, which would move it over to the right of the sandbox, that it would overload that area with structures versus having it in the central place that it is now. That's what I heard him saying, but I don't know if you heard something different or not, Elizabeth.
And there's room where it is now? For its size?
Oh, there's plenty of room. It's just about the aesthetics of the natural.
It's about the design of the natural area, plus my biggest concern is that if you moved it over closer to the 2 to 5 area, it would be a much more highly functional location for parents with kids eating and kids being on the playground while you could see them, if you have multiple kids.
Do you have the capacity to move things? Okay.
Not on this, I don't.
I mean, you think you could see better if you put it over there?
If it was over there, then you could be sitting in the shade structure and you could let one of your kids still go to the
2 to 5
2 to 5 area and play while you were sitting with another child.
You wouldn't do that where it is now?
Not with the age of my current kids.
Fair enough.
but, you know.
I'm
Or
fine
the
with
current age of your kids.
age
Yes,
personalities,
yes.
yes.
My current kids being the only kids I expect to have, yes. Language and grammar. I split my, participles or something? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fine with it there. So.
I thought it would give us more flexibility for the sensory garden. And I also had a kid that needed intervention quickly.
Mine do too.
Yeah, I just feel like it's more centrally located to where the kids are going to be. If you have it on the other side of the sand pit.
What about if you swapped its place with the sand pit? Put it where the sand pit is now, and then put the sand pit where it is. How would that work? Well, you're not crowding them together on one side.
I mean, that doesn't fix the natural play area problems, design problems.
Well, yes, it does, because it takes it out of that section and brings it over.
I'm assuming
He's
from-
talking about putting the sand pit back where the where the thing is.
I'm assuming from the picture, and maybe this is wrong, that the sand pit is smaller than an actual shade structure, than the shade structure.
Yeah.
So you'd
I
have
would
less
say
impact
probably
on the
the s-
natural play area.
That shade
Oh,
that
I-
shade structure is not the right. That is not the size of the actual shade structure, scale wise.
Okay, I was thinking that you'd meant moving the sandbox closer to the 2 to 5 area and then moving the shade structure to the corner.
No, I'm just talking about flipping their positions. Just flipping them, but I don't know, does that diagram show the shade structure too large or too small?
Too small.
We think,
The
yeah.
original shade structure was like 12 by 16.
Yes, and this is supposed to be 16 by 20.
And according to Steve, when I tried to talk about this to him, he said, "Oh, the one that's on the plan is not the bigger one." So I assumed this was. But I don't have a. Well, I guess.
Well, do you want to table this until we have a drawing, a scaled, properly scaled drawing from him to?
If he's not going to move it one way or another, I mean, do we have?
Well, I mean, we still have the opportunity to present our opinion, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean. I mean, it's so.
Danielle, how do you feel about where it is?
I'm fine with where it is, so that's my opinion. He can present something. Maybe I'll like it over there more, but probably not. Like I'm okay with where it is. But
I just don't think there's enough support to move it, to waste the
Yeah.
time on.
Unless you feel strongly about moving it
I know
as well.
he feels strongly about it staying where it
I,
is. So.
But I support that. If you guys feel differently, I mean, I'll defer to that. I mean,
Yeah, but there's only two of us who care about changing it, who have enough interest in changing it, so it's just
well,
not.
we could wait until the next meeting, and Marcus will be here, and I mean, and we could have a drawing to look at too. So we could have. I mean, I don't want to rush it if it's something that's important, and I want you guys to feel like it's been discussed and.
I feel like it's been discussed. I feel like I know that Steve is going to be very against it. I'm not sure that I have the.
want to pick that battle.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a battle that I'm
Okay.
up for. I would really like it somewhere else. I don't feel like there's enough public or there's enough total support for it to be a battle worth fighting at this point. So.
And I have already battled forth with Steve for about a good 15, 20 minutes at the groundbreaking. And so I think I said my piece on it to him. He just doesn't get. But his kids are older now, yeah.
David and Amanda, to put you guys on the spot, did you guys have any opinion on the location of that?
sorry.
The location of okay. Okay. So do we want to table it for another discussion for the next meeting, or we just want to move forward?
Let's just move on.
Yeah, move forward.
All right.
Okay, moving forward.
I asked him about the irrigation and power is supposed to be going underground, and his response was that he'll be adding sleeves for irrigation, but running all the conduit for power, more likely placing something similar to what is on the common for the meter and breaker box granite post near the pole with a light on it. I think that's the one that says no dogs. Now that some equipment is up, I have a better idea of where I can run the conduit. So the plans are that the power and irrigation lines will be in place. That's what I'm reading there. We had also mentioned the idea of adding a self-closing gate to the where the original entryway was with him, and he said that he's going, once he settles on the fence company, he'll price a self-closing gate for the original entryway opening.
Great. And he said he was okay with one of them, right? I think he was concerned about having 3 different gates and all the whatever, but I think he seemed okay with, there's enough reasoning for the front gate. It's the one that's closest to the little kids area. It's the one that goes directly to the street and the stream and everything. And it's only one, and it's probably going to be the least used if you think about how people are going to access it. So he's fine. He didn't have any pushback verbally anyway about doing it. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
And then I also touched base with him about, I got word from Megan from the Girl Scout troop about wanting to get the old the old bench from their pile, and he says that they've chipped away all the concrete off of it. They've got it ready to go, so he's been in contact with her.
Oh, great.
And then he says that they have at least 3 more possible benches that can be repurposed, or I should say he has 3. One of them may be bent, but so you'll have at least 2. So anybody's listening, or if anybody's interested, repurposing a bench could be a good way to leave their mark at Friendship Park and create a memory bench, right? Because you could take it and repurpose it and spend the money for the materials, and it could be dedicated to someone in that way. So it's kind of a low-cost way of
Put that out there for the people that were disappointed they missed bricks.
there you go.
Yes.
So any other questions on the updates from Steve?
No.
Any other updates that we're looking for from Steve that you guys want me to follow up with him, or that we individually want to follow up with him on?
Was he able to match the color of the brick?
That's a good question. I don't know. The last we talked to him, he said he was going to have that last Friday, so he didn't seem to think there was going to be a problem.
Okay.
We still don't have any sort of cost estimate. It's been a month plus.
Correct. He did ask about the extending beyond the entryway, so I'm guessing that's on his list of things to do.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm not sure when we're gonna get it in terms of knowing the cost versus putting money into other things. Or
I mean, it's all, yeah, and we'll get into it. We're having the same issues with the natural play area design as well, so we'll talk about that in a sec.
yeah.
We've talked about this. Are there any other questions or comments on the fence lines, the taking out the 3 trees, or anything else that's on this hand
Do we
drawn?
need to do a vote or something on this?
We can. It sounded to me that we all 4 supported it, but we can make it official if you want to make it official.
I just didn't know if we needed
Yeah,
to
we
make it
can.
official.
Do you want to make a motion to, Adele told me I can't make motions.
Right. So, but you can suggest someone else makes a motion.
In fact, you can even say that you would entertain a motion.
Oh, come on. I would entertain a motion.
All right, I make a motion to remove the 3 trees so that DPW can move the fence line where they find it to be more useful.
I need a clarification with the, I somehow got confused. Is the fence going 10 feet out
Yeah.
or 10 feet in?
Out.
Out. So you'll end up
We'll
with-
have more space in the park.
Okay. Then,
We win more space in the park
Yes.
for
Then
lots
I,
of trees.
then I second.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Can I vote too?
Yes.
Only if it's an even tie.
This is the updated map, so I added the fence line in there, and then the
Which fence line though is that? Is that with the trees gone or?
that's the first one. So we'll have to modify it based on the additional space, and then a corner of it got cut off, so I'll have to get a new map from O'Brien and Sons, So that's just the one that they sent us. And then we've just been adding to that. And then we'll flip the hillside climber and the rock structures as well.
And that's nice. We'll have a good grassy area in the back and in the front, kind of matching.
Yeah, I think so. And then we'll have room for some sort of a butterfly garden in the back, and I think it'll kind of tie that area together nicely.
Are we going to landscape in any hills or you were talking about having different levels?
I think that
That
was
got gone a while ago.
Oh, past long
Sorry.
since.
That's
I
the
missed that.
That's the
Yeah.
the wood
That's how it
dish
goes.
hillside climber thing. I think is the closest we got to it.
Yes.
because they couldn't mow it. They couldn't keep it mowed, and then if it got played
Okay.
on well, it would be muddy all the
Okay.
time.
It was part of the vendor choice was not. There was only one vendor that really gave us a
Okay.
plan of the ones we were considering at the end, I guess.
Any other comments or questions on this? There's really been no improvements on the natural play area design. I've sent a couple emails to Weston, haven't gotten any responses back. I think at this point, the last email response that I got back was that they believe that their vendors the vendors that would actually put the hardscape into place are so busy that they're not going to have time to do it in time for the June 23rd grand opening.
Even if we had a design,
Even if we had a design,
which we don't have.
which we don't have, nor do we have material estimates or lineage and feet and stuff yet either, which is troubling. But we have to move forward.
Do we have any I mean, the last thing I saw from Terry was the single path across, which changed the whole concept of what we were.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be moving forward. So he had sent to all of us sort of a revised, whole different design that was kind of an eye of a hurricane looking thing, where it was just the center garden and then sort of two pathways coming off that I don't think, at least I didn't support. I don't think you supported. I don't know how you guys felt
Basically
about
looked like a yin yang with a circle in the middle,
it. Right.
which kind of defeats the whole like labyrinthy pathy thing that we had talked about from the beginning, and we might as well just do an entirely different.
Right. So I think just from a bigger picture standpoint, I think we're still asking and looking for landscapers and people who are hardscape specialists to do these things to see if they can fit it in the schedule, and we'll still work and try to make it happen before then. But I think we need to at least start planning for the real possibility that this part won't be in place by June 23rd.
The grand opening will be for the play structures.
Basically, right, in the pathways.
And if we have a chance to go further into the fall before we, if the hardscape goes in further into the fall, planting the perennials is actually good timing then.
For the center garden, right? We
Yeah.
still won't be able to do the beds and the spokes because we won't have the irrigation system, but we could do the center garden.
Right.
Yeah.
When is he putting in the irrigation? Because if we don't have a plan,
So the irrigation is all tied in with the new baseball, lacrosse.
no, the sleeves, not the
Oh.
actual irrigation.
He didn't say when. He just said that he was going to start putting those things in.
Okay.
Before the paths went down. Right, so you don't have to rip it up.
Yeah.
Right. But I think what you're saying is he
We need
needs to
something
know where the
soon.
gardens are.
I see.
But they could cover zones, I guess, so maybe there's like one, but I'll make sure that he's at least aware of that.
And waiting
So we
a
say
little
all those
bit also gives us the opportunity to see if we get that Lowe's grant, which would not only completely pay for all the hardscaping, but probably allow us to do even more.
And you raised a question at the Friends of Roberts Field meeting that I've been doing a lot of thinking about and regret about for how I responded. And it was, are we...
I have no idea what you're referring to, so
Well,
remind me what I said.
you asked if we were currently fundraising for Phase 2 of the natural play area. And to clarify, Phase 2 is basically the filling in the raised gardens in those spokes.
Anything that's not the center.
That's not the center or not the pathway, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said that we we weren't, but I think that was wrong. I think we are.
Okay.
I think the money that we're raising now should be earmarked for those things. 'Cause I think people that are donating money for the natural play area are seeing it not necessarily as a phase 1, phase 2 thing. And this is just my thoughts. So if I'm wrong, if I'm off base, tell me.
Yeah.
I think we need to look at that as a whole for the funding, rather than phase 1, phase 2.
Okay.
Makes it tough because we don't have a plan, so we don't
Right.
have the dollars. But I think that once we have the plan and the dollars, I think we just need to collect the money and then set it aside.
Well, I guess that's my concern is if people are fundraising, if people are wanting to put money towards the park and we don't have a plan, we don't have a, I mean, I'm sure someday this will all come together, but it feels like vaporware right now. It doesn't feel, sorry, that's an engineering.
That's okay,
I
it's
get the gist of
understandable.
Yes. I'm sure that someday it will be a thing. Right now it's feeling so far from a thing that I am uncomfortable with people's money being like, your money's going towards this until we have more of a concrete, it's happening. And particularly since we said we were fundraising towards paying down the CPF, CPC,
CPC.
Yeah.
It's the Community Preservation Fund.
Right, so it's CPF, right?
CPF, right.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's the Community Preservation Commission, I think.
Okay. That explains why I keep wanting to say CPC fund, but it's like yeah.
So have certain people donated already and said this money is only to be used for the natural play area?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So we're saying if people want to earmark it, we need to leave it.
But in this meantime, there's a lot of money that needs to go into just phase 1. So I'm not concerned that we have
Right.
I'm not concerned that at this moment in time that the money raised specifically for that is going to be beyond the scope of what phase 1 would be if we have a phase 1 design.
Like how if you're building a house, somebody has to pay for the pipes in the house, and that's not pretty, but everybody wants to say they bought the stainless steel refrigerator. I'm just trying to follow because I wasn't at this
so
meeting.
I mean, the plan 1 is the garden in the center and the
Right.
paths, right?
Right, we
But
have to get
that
in
all
first.
costs money, and I don't think we're gonna outraise. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think we're gonna fundraise more than what that is worth at this moment in time.
I think we will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That's great.
And why is that a problem? Because we know we want the natural play area. And we don't, granted, we don't know how expensive the whole project can be from a funding standpoint. But at least you start with the garden and the pathways, and it can grow over time.
And there's another way to do it. You have a budget, then you fit your design into your budget. With plants, you can always go smaller, and you can save quite a bit of money. You just have to be patient.
Absolutely.
And I guess just from my perspective, it's just a matter of having the money and not necessarily having a concrete plan. That's the part that really is the rub for me.
That makes me feel uncomfortable
Yeah.
collecting money from people without being like we have, because that won't be money that goes to pay off the CPF, and it's not money that pays off structures we physically have. It's or had said we wanted to, or that will be there for the grand opening. It's for this thing that we planned that hopefully will become, and it's just a little too amorphous for me to be like, yes.
Well, the worst case scenario would be that we raise too much money and then we don't have the money for, or we don't have the execution of phase 2. And let's say we have $1,000 or $2,000 set aside for phase 2. The worst case scenario would be that we would turn that over to the Community Preservation Fund.
Even though we'd specified that it was for
Right.
the.
Actually, if donors have specified what their gift is to be used for, you cannot change its use
Right.
without their permission.
So maybe what we need to do then is create a caveat that explains that then, with the donor paperwork.
Is this premature? No, it sounds to me like a very premature conversation. Are you worried that Terry's gonna do the design on this, right?
Yeah.
Or is that not established?
I'm not 100% sure that that's going to be the case. Somebody will do a design.
We will get a design. The design has gone back and forth enough, and we have had so little. We haven't heard anything for a while, and we've been. I'm just. It's not feeling as solid as it once was in the variation that we were looking at, expecting.
Here's the point down the road where you got funding for something that looks like it's not materialized, and you can go back to the donors and say, you can take your money back, or you can approve to have this money reallocated, or, you can do that, but.
Or we could just, as Adele's saying, have it written into any agreement that our plan is to have it go towards but should we raise more than is needed for the natural area, then it will be automatically go back towards the rest of the thing. And that seems like a reasonable.
You don't need to be that specific. If we have fundraised more than the specific item to which you want to donate,
Right.
then anything over will then go into the general fund.
Right. And I think since generally people want to go towards the park, that as long as we're clear about that, then I'm okay
So we
with
just
that.
need to add that in. Is that something that
As
you
long as the
would
verbiage is
support,
fine.
Barry?
What's that?
Is that something you would support?
Sure.
I asked Barry because Barry's committed to as a sponsor of the natural play area. So
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you, Barry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And did I miss something? Terry's not gonna do the design?
Terry is a little peeved at the moment.
Why?
Because of how much time he has spent on this?
I think also
and he's feeling like he's not getting enough artistic license.
I think there's that. I think there's very
Sure.
much. I think the response that came back with a single path.
Uh-huh.
I asked what the inspiration for that was because I was confused because it was very different from the previous thing, and the response back was kind of.
I also think
his
it's their
inspiration was his inspiration, or that basically we've asked him to go around the tree, and that narrows down what his plan.
Okay.
I don't honestly. I just don't fully understand. I just know that we haven't gotten any plan past the single path, which was. I don't think any one of us was talking about a single path during any of our conversations. So I was confused when he came back with a single path and was like, "Hey, I'm confused. What was the inspiration?" And it was very different from. And we haven't gotten anything back to try to work
Excuse me,
with
could I
what we
say
were
something
expecting.
here? At the last meeting, he invited me over to look at a couple of trees that he had. When I went over, he talked about, to me, moving the walkways out from underneath the tree with no problem at all. He's probably so busy that he can't think. It's the busy, we used to call it the silly season or the stupid season, because you're just so busy. And then all of a sudden, about sometime in June or maybe early July, all of a sudden things will settle down because everybody wants it now.
Right. And that's totally
Yeah. So
possible. I was really confused because he came back with literally a single path, and we'd been talking about all these paths and stuff.
I haven't seen it, but in my conversation with him, he seemed to be on board with it and willing to make some adjustments.
And that was what I thought prior to getting the single path. His response to when I asked about the single path was basically, it seemed like he felt restricted by our request to stay out of the tree perimeter. And so that was his solution. So I just didn't feel like I was understanding where we were going from there.
I think the idea is too good for us to just let it sit too long.
I agree.
I don't think anyone wants to let it sit.
Yeah.
I don't feel like we've gotten anything.
If we,
And he's probably really busy.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally understand and respect that. And it is,
I wonder
Absolutely.
if there's any way that any of us can give him some time to help him draft it. I don't know if that would help him, just get in the way. I mean,
It probably would get in the way, frankly. I think because really all he needs to do is kind of tweak the beds outside of the tree protection zone, and then calculate all the surface and materials and walls and stuff. So it's not a whole lot of design work. It's more sort of the details of it.
It is the details, but I will say from other aspects of things and in dealing with lots of people and personalities and wants, when you offer to do something with your time is more valuable than money. You know, you can write a check. It's easy for people to say, I gave to Friendship Park, I wrote a $50 check. Did you build it? Did you do anything else? And I don't want to minimize that. It is important. But time is really valuable. And if we're taking up too much of somebody's time and getting too, I mean, I haven't been in on these conversations. I just met Terry the last time, and that's my interaction. I just think we need to really think about how we deal with people going forward as well, because I don't want to run into that situation again. I could foresee that being a problem.
That might be a good conversation for you guys to have with Terry.
I mean, I'd be happy to talk to him too. You know, I understand, like I said, we all have really clear visions of what we want, but at the same point, if somebody's offering to donate, then you kind of also need to respect their wishes and their visions. And although it's collaborative, it can't be collaborative with 50 emails back and forth and hours and hours and hours spent. Like there's a cap. So.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that we were just trying to get something outside of the tree protection zone and just like remove a path or move a path and
Yeah,
And-
and I don't do those things. You know, it sounds simple, right? It's a matter of doing this or doing that, but it could very well take a lot more time than we know or understand. So I
right.
just
But I
wanna
think
be
the tree
sensitive.
protection zone is like one of the key things for the whole playground. So
Yep.
if we can't find a way to respect getting outside
Right.
the tree protection zone,
No.
I don't think that's like a piddly little like, oh, we wanted it to be like this color.
Yep, I agree with you there too. There's a lot of moving pieces.
So how about this? We'll keep, I'm sorry, go ahead, Barry.
Is that the tree protection zone you're looking at,
The dotted
dot in
circle.
the circle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I'm looking at that and almost thinking he's got that marked down as the canopy.
No, the canopy is a squiggly line outside of it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you can see the tree.
So, in the essence of time, why don't we move on from this? And I'll keep you guys updated as to what we hear back. A couple of things that I wanted to touch on, just as brief updates. One, we'll talk about the stones in a minute, but we at least have a request out to a granite company for costs, and I'll show you some photographs of that. We also have a potential sponsor and builder of the kinetic wind sculpture that's very interested in, that has the metal laser cutting abilities and welding abilities and metal smithing abilities in-house to be able to do that. They are just looking for design input. So if you guys have anything in mind, obviously I shared this with them, but if you guys have something different in mind, if you'll share that with me as soon as possible so I can get that to them. There's a real
As I
possibility
said
of having
before,
that
as
done.
much artistic freedom to them, I defer to them. Once they get the size right, that's all that matters.
The sign on the lower left-hand side, we still need to do a lot of work on that guy. But Elizabeth brought up a great suggestion about incorporating Living with Wildlife, the state's Living with Wildlife program, into that. So that might be thematically kind of where we end up going with that. But remember, that sign's going to be talking about the sensory gardens, the animal tracks and the concrete thing, and then the nature trail kiosks. And I think that's it for this slide. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I just came, in terms of the sculpture, one of the most natural things that would fit would be something holding up a wind, the animal type windmills that are prevalent on barns.
Weather vanes?
Weather vanes, thank you. I couldn't get.
No, it's okay. I'm on a farm 4 days a week, so.
And I don't know if that's limiting the notion of a sculpture too much.
I was gonna say that's not really kinetic. I mean, the whole weather vane thing is it goes in the direction of the wind and then it stays.
So my thought was perhaps asking if they would also be willing to do a weather vane with perhaps an owl, since that seems to be our main animal.
Honestly, what I would say is just send me whatever things make you happy. Whatever designs or ideas you have that you kind of have in your minds, and I'll share it with them. And then, like Danielle said, we'll give them the artistic license to kind of come back with. I mean, they may look at it and be able to come at it from a slightly different perspective, but still ring true to what you're asking for. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not sure that the people who are happy to do like a kinetic sculpture,
Yeah.
maybe of the skill level to do an owl. Never mind the fact that I think when we're talking about a kinetic sculpture, it's more like moving pieces and how they move with the wind, which if you have like a stationary owl and a weather vane, that's kind of like
Yeah.
any given day it will point where the,
But who knows? I mean,
Well, this is New England, but you don't have to design a weather vane that's stable. You can make it.
it can.
I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of ways to design.
Your ideas might spark an idea with them, so I would encourage you to share that.
See, I've never found an outdoor kinetic sculpture I really like, except these really huge, 100-foot things that
things that are not
that
happening in our
look
park.
like cranes and
With
such
swords
that are
That makes me happy.
cute.
Lord of the
Um,
Rings.
Well, send me the things, and then we'll see where it goes.
Are you talking about the thing was that with the Peabody Essex Museum a few years ago? There's
Um,
a crazy kinetic sculpture thing where like they walk across beaches and they're huge. And never mind.
No, this was one from many, many moons ago in Spain.
All right.
Okay.
So before we move on, I just
If
want to
I'll,
clarify.
oh, sorry.
Nope, you go ahead.
I was just
Mine's
gonna say
just for
I will
note-taking.
Google things and I'll send you if I find anything.
Okay.
Just to clarify for my note taking. So moving forward with Terry, you're going to do that.
I sent him an email this morning asking if he was going to come to the meeting and ask if he had any updates, and haven't heard anything back. So I'm going to wait until I hear back from him. That was my second unresponded email, so I'm not going to follow up anymore.
I was gonna say the last time we talked to him was like 2 weeks ago.
Correct.
We haven't heard anything. So.
Correct. But like Jim said, it's their silly season,
Right,
so
right.
For sure.
I want to be respectful of his time, and I don't want to badger him for so.
We just
he'll-
need to know if he still really wants.
Yeah, and I also reached out
We haven't bothered him
to.
so much that he doesn't want to do it anymore.
I also reached out to Jim Connolly, the manager at Weston, to see if they were still interested in sponsorships. So there's both ends of that candle burning right now.
Okay.
Any other comments or anything else? Signage. So Daniil wrote a story and rules. I shared the rules with Kathleen Canavan, who shared the rules with the new playground. What was his title? Playground and something coordinator, I think. But he's specifically just in charge of playgrounds and parks now.
Is this new?
Yes, Steve Callahan or Callaghan, I believe
Is
is.
he replacing someone?
No, they've added a position, essentially a Parks and Recreation kind of
Oh, okay.
person.
Yeah. And I didn't put the name there because I know that people's names and like direct things, so I have just like the main town of Chelmsford for people to go to click, and the main DPW versus somebody's extension, again, thinking about the fact that.
The future.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say contact or like put an email of S. Callahan because that could
correct.
super change something.
And I think this is an excellent start. This will give them something to work
This
from.
is also not the story that I wrote. This.
Well, I modified it, and then I asked for your feedback on the modification.
Yeah, my
and didn't
feedback
get-
is no thank you. But that's fine. I just want to make it clear that's not what I wrote.
Well, do you want me to pull yours up?
Either way,
And go
it
from there?
doesn't matter.
Because I felt like what was missing from yours was that the first playground was put in the 1970s by town meeting. We don't yet have a firm date on when the actual stuff went in, but I felt like it was important to include that. I took out the O'Brien and Sons and landscape structures references because I didn't feel like that was necessarily an important part of the story, and that's just my opinion. So if you disagree, we can modify that. I would felt like that their name might be better suited for the sponsor rock, and I think that was the only other.
Do you put in this?
I don't
on
like this having reached the end of its usable life. Like, I think it's hard because there's a lot of good, I got some really interesting stories from people, and there's a lot of information, but you have to condense, knowing too, we have a website that somebody's going to go to. And I thought about, should we put in here more in the story too, for more information or to share a story or read stories, go to robertsfield.org. I think that could be good. You know, you do something and all you do is just rethink it. It's like 5 lines, but you just think and think and think.
Right.
But this was, yeah.
Two comments?
Mm-hmm.
Just the phrasing, having reached the end of its life, the new inclusive, you might want to consider working those words a little bit.
I didn't write that.
Can we,
But
can
your
we,
point is taken. I said I don't like it.
can we see Danielle's copy version?
Okay, well, okay, that's all that.
I sent it to everybody. I
Yeah.
only heard back.
Yeah, I read your notes from the meeting minutes, and then I didn't actually.
Like I said,
Probably pulled it up.
And the
then-
only thing I caught was a grammar thing in the first sentence.
I saw that too.
Oh, there was. I meant to tell you on the notes there was a rated instead of raised.
Yeah, there totally was.
Yeah, and that was,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you just catch these things, and I'm doing stuff as, you know, in between dosing Jack with medicine and screaming and
yes.
crying and drooling.
I can't wait.
And like I said, it's very small, so it seems like, oh, it's not a big deal. But the fact of the matter is, like, it's,
There's that line of like, if I had more time, I would have written less.
well, and you just look at something enough, you know, like being involved with the park. You look at it enough and you just keep thinking of ways to improve it. At some point, you have to stop. And so at some point, I had to just send it and say, we're done here.
Well, I think it, you know, it's a draft.
Yep.
I think like everything we do, it all requires wordsmithing.
Yep, absolutely.
So here's yours.
I think the last sentence, minus the O'Brien and Sons and Landscape Sculptures, is important information.
I thought so too, but I could
Yeah.
certainly appreciate moving the O'Brien and Sons or doing something. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure how to. I've looked at a lot of other playground stories online and in person, and a lot do have who did the design, at least, regardless of if they did the build. So that's kind of why I. Doesn't mean because 9 out of 10 people did it, so we have to also. We certainly don't, but that's kind of why I left it in. But I felt like they needed to know the children and caregivers, especially with having
Right.
Jeff at our groundbreaking. I felt that was really important.
And that's still in. The only thing that got taken out was in the new design on the last sentence and the O'Brien and Sons, a landscape structures representative. So everything else is still this word for word the same. The metal playground thing, I don't know if it's necessary. I mean, if it is, if you guys think it is, I don't know if it's necessary to necessarily say it's a metal playground stood there. I do feel like it's important to say that the playgrounds, because a lot of people have memories of that first playground, and I think saying that it was put there in the 70s is important.
I never got that it was put there in the 70s, but when I was asking people for their stories,
Yeah.
everybody mentioned that it was metal. And, you know, I didn't grow up here. I'm from Texas. I've lived in Chelmsford 2 years, but somehow I'm writing this story. So I'm kind of gathering from people, but everybody mentioned the metal one that we got burned on and cut ourselves. So that's why I left
Right.
it.
Yeah.
No,
Because
I think
it came
it's
up
good.
so many times, and
I also heard
You know.
clown face a lot too.
Right, I
Yes,
heard
the-
clown face.
clown
And-
face.
Clown colors.
I
Yep.
can't entirely remember the slide that had clown face. For my daughter, the important part was the ever-present geodesic dome.
See, that's the thing. Like, I just know, like, I'm just,
And I
I
never
just tried to
saw it. I
gather-
have no
yeah.
indication of
Yeah.
it other than I've heard clown face. And
I have nobody in my family that
Right.
has ever seen it.
Right.
So that's why I left metal. But
I would add the time frame. If it was 70s, I like adding that. But I like the
Not that
metal.
I've been able to find yet.
yeah,
I think the metal thing is
I don't know if
the
you
metal
feel-
thing versus the wood thing versus. I think it's. I, think
I
that
felt like it
makes-
showed the iterations.
Yeah,
Like, but that was me.
and it's a very tactile. The playground is a very tactile thing, and that's a very.
But I think to then call it a typical 1960s, 1970s motif metal playground would actually probably bring a lot of pictures to people.
It probably
are that
does, but
old.
it gets super. It gets
Wordy.
wordy that way.
Yeah.
So, again,
I mean, I
that
would
was
say,
my inspiration,
Okay.
and I didn't know about the '70s. So yeah,
Yeah, if
like
it
the
came
metal
in the
playground
70s,
from
then
the
I would say
70s,
the metal playground from the 70s, like first
the
installed. in
'70s metal playground. Somebody talked about like some psychedelic clothes they found once, like the '70s, like a onesie or something, at the playground, and so you know, just to date it to the '70s. It was fun to read what people, you know, remembered and commented, and it's, you know, lots of conversation got going about it.
So it sounds like we want to add in
The '70s.
70s, add back in the metal, is it important to say that the third line, using town and privately raised funds, is that an important thing to call out?
Yeah,
for the
that's
plaque?
totally up to you guys. And I'm going with my thinking again. That's from looking at other town stories. Everybody has seemed to note, like, how did it come about? You know, like, this was all privately raised, or this was a grant, or this was a gift from so-and-so. So that's why I put it there. But, you know, if you guys don't like it, or if the town doesn't like it, because the first iteration had no town money, as we learned at town meeting.
Yeah.
That was all privately raised funds. So, I mean, I don't want to diminish what those,
Which one, the
the
middle one?
wooden one.
We
The
don't- I
wooden
don't-
one was
Was it
all-
100%? Are
that
we
was-
sure?
Yes.
That's, at least that's what I got. It doesn't mean I got 100% of the story,
what
but
we
that's
hear.
the story that I'm getting.
They raised just over 100,000.
And they
And
designed it
they
and they
designed it.
built it
wow.
themselves. So I thought,
Yes.
and that's kind of, I was like, I feel like that's an important thing. Again, there's all these interesting, important things. So it's picking and choosing.
I guess if, from my perspective, if we're going to say that this one is paid for by the town and privately raised funds, then we need to say that the first one or the second one was paid for by privately raised funds. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It was paid by the brick fundraiser.
No, I understand, but what I'm saying is, if we're going to say that, if we're going to discuss funding for this one, we need to discuss funding for the other one too.
But it gives us then the opportunity to talk about legacy and how funds for this playground was also raised through a brick, by a brick program, and the 2 courses of bricks.
I don't
meet
think we
in
can
the-
really put the bricks
Okay,
in this. I mean, I like the
It's too
bricks.
much, you
Yeah.
get too much detail.
okay.
It's hard. You have to balance. Yes.
Is this really about legacy? You have sponsor rocks out there. Isn't this really an invitation to the community to enjoy this new asset?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also I mean,
I don't see an invitation to the community in either of those 2 sets of languages.
well, I think this is the story. I think this isn't the welcome. This is the.
How would you
What is it?
characterize a welcome to the community? Like, how would that?
Invite you to enjoy this new playground that's, you know, inclusively designed, et cetera. The language that you have in there, but extend an invitation to the community.
Mm-hmm. I can really appreciate that a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, I can certainly.
Yeah, that could be a good opening sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one thing I actually had a question about too as I was doing this. Is there a separate, more welcome sign, or is that story kind of the?
I guess that's what I had thought we were
Welcome.
going to have, like a welcome thing, and I thought this was the story separate. So that's why I'm confused.
It doesn't matter, but if we don't have a special thing, I absolutely agree
Yeah.
that I need to put.
If we're not
something
having
in.
something separate, then that
Mhm.
crafted into here.
Yep.
I do think we want to make sure that we don't, that it's a permanent welcome and not to our new playground, because in 10 years it's not going to be the new playground anymore.
Right.
Okay.
Quick question.
What,
with the
just one
rules.
second.
Oh, sure.
So, on the right-hand side is sort of just the rough of the sign kiosk. There wouldn't be the seat on that side, but, so that's roughly what the sign would look like. So there's that area off to the right-hand side of the map, I guess, that would be the area that the story and the rules would fall into. So, just to
Okay.
clarify where.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. Like I said, so I would say I need to certainly put that language in there as well.
So is that welcome under kiosk? Is that just a sign that says welcome, or was that a separate welcome paragraph sentence thing?
It can be whatever we want it to be. So, I'm
I
thinking.
meant in other people's minds, because in my mind it was a welcome and then there was a story, so that's why.
There's the board across the top.
There's gonna be like a banner that says "Welcome to Friendship Park," if I remember.
The nice finished signs, right? So there's this guy, and then there's a sign location here that would probably say you could either be Welcome to Friendship Park or just Friendship Park. And then on this particular copy, there's just a ton of copy on here, so we could, if we wanted to emulate that, we could put anything on there. Our map is more
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
more horizontal than vertical, but there's a lot of room on there, obviously.
But it would be a good spot for welcome and story on one side and rules on the other.
Sure. Yeah, no.
You only need a couple words to put the welcome.
Absolutely. I can change the tone pretty easily with a couple
Yeah.
key placement of words. And I think that was a very good point. So,
Yeah, I mean, do welcome to our new. I mean, you could start, and you have it chronologically here, but if you want to start with a welcome to our new.
Welcome to Chelmsford's inclusive,
Designed
or just inclusive playground
playground.
that children and caregivers of all abilities can enjoy together.
Yeah, I mean, you could do
Yeah.
welcome to our inclusive playground that replaces a great history of previous playgrounds here. I don't know. I know we're rewriting everything that you already. spent
and
time
here's the
rewriting.
thing, we'll talk about time again, right? Like, I'm happy to take some more time, but I can't write it 30 times. If you feel really strongly about something, feel free to also step up and do it yourself. You know, I'm not going to say I wrote it when I didn't actually write it, but, you know, everything gets changed. So I think we can add some better language there. I think to Bill's point, like that banner kind of on the kiosk there, it's going to say, welcome to Friendship Park, the story, the rules, but there should be some more welcome language. We incorporate the 70s metal.
So of these two versions, I think we want to include metal playground. We want to include something about the 70s, sort of give it a timeline for when that went in. Do we want to say that it was designated by town meeting? Do we want to include that?
Right, how do people feel about putting the source of funds in here? It certainly doesn't have to be in here on either.
I think he was talking about where it was designated a recreational area.
But that was kind of, because I don't
Key.
really know, but that was kind of my attempt at putting in where the money came from.
Oh,
See that
for the
that
original
doesn't-
playground.
I never got
Saying
any
town meeting
information.
designated the field for recreational use does not tell me they also invested.
But it's
in
all
it.
that I have for right now.
Yeah.
So that was just an attempt at it. So if we don't want to put town meeting in there, we don't have to. I'm just
Yeah,
I'm
I think
asking.
sometimes it's better to leave something out when you're not sure of it, rather than write something that lives in infamy.
So when you have using town and privately raised funds, this is really stupid, but is it privately raised if it's corporate?
Because it's still a private donation between that company to
Okay,
us.
that's,
And that keeps it simple, because you go beyond that, you now start to need words.
It's
well, I didn't know whether we wanted to say town, families, and corporate.
Well, that's a private fund that a
Right.
family gives as well.
no, the catchphrase, private and public enterprise or.
Okay.
I could say instead of using town, you can say using public and private funds, but you don't want to go beyond that because it gets too wordy and
Yeah.
specific. Or we just say, we're not going to tell the story, we're not going to leave the money trail on the story, and
I
that's
say
okay
strike
too.
it. I don't know what it doesn't necessarily bring anything to it because it's everything. It's not like
Yeah.
it's if our story was that we raised all this money by ourselves, I'd want to highlight that. But if it's a mix of both, it's not really a
Well,
highlight.
it's kind of it's the community. The community is personal. The community is public. It's
But if we say was rebuilt in 2018 by volunteers, and I think we need to say by volunteers and the town of Chelmsford, I think capturing the community's desire for an accessible, inclusive playground kind of does that. Talks about the community's investment in the project, not from a financial standpoint, but from a design standpoint.
Coming to, here's my other, I have lots of 2 cents. Coming from Texas where we don't pay taxes like we do up here, and we have lots more playgrounds and way better ones all over the place. You see your tax dollars. For me, I kind of wanted people to know your tax dollars went
Right.
here, to see something, because people are angry about where do they go. But maybe that's my feeling, and that certainly does not need to be anybody else's or the group's feeling.
I mean, I think getting the town vote was a big part of this. The town vote to get the money, because it wouldn't have happened in the time frame that it needed to happen to continuously have a playground there. I think it's.
So how about this? I'm going to do 2 more drafts. I can do one with the fun parts in it and one with the fun parts out and see how it
No,
feels.
just do one with the funds in it. I mean, there's no reason to do 2 separate drafts for that, I wouldn't think.
Well, because the length of it, I felt also, I mean, it's very important when you write, you kind of get the length right, how it looks on a sign too. Once John mocks it up, I may end up having to like get out a word or something, you know, to
Okay.
make it fit.
I would capitalize town. I would strike O'Brien and Sons Landscape Structure Representatives and say that for the sign. And I think everything else is pretty consistent.
Okay, so that's what you would like to see. Is there anything different or the same that you two would like?
I could see leaving O'Brien and Sons. I wouldn't put them in the. I wouldn't put them on the sponsor route because they're not a sponsor. They didn't give us money. We gave them.
On that rock, we're going to have volunteer names too. So it's not just, and then the town names as well. So it's going to be DPW will be on there. The Board of Selectmen will be on there. I mean, it's going to be a lot of people.
Okay, but they won't be under the They're not going to be under sponsors.
But it's
right?
on the same sponsor plaque.
Okay. Excuse me.
So you're saying drop O'Brien and Sons?
I would drop a
For
landscape
sure,
structure.
drop landscape structures.
I would-
Now it should be drop O'Brien.
I'll tell you why
Yeah.
I think you should drop O'Brien, because what happens if the natural play, just for an example, the natural play area, let's say Western Nurseries totally built that. Not that we're expecting that, but supposing we hired them and they totally implemented that. Then you'd want them, you know.
And there's going to be signage for the natural play area separately.
And having, climbing structures, climbing or structured play areas designed by O'Brien and Sons on the attribution plaque, where donors and such go, makes a lot of sense. Makes more sense to me
I agree.
than having
Okay.
it in the
Yeah,
middle of
I'm
the
fine
story.
having them out if they're on the sponsor. I mean, on the
Yeah.
if they're on the rock,
Right.
which includes all of that.
Gives you some word.
Given that
Absolutely,
we don't
yeah.
have
I
the
mean, the
previous
real
design.
estate is quite
Right.
valuable, so you try to make every
Yeah.
word.
So if you have the 70s in there and the metal to start it, and then I kind of like that it specifies that the 70s is when it was. Is the 70s when it changed over from being farmland to being?
I think so.
Yes, the town meeting, they took the property by eminent domain to build a school, but the school never got built. So
remember
then in 72, they built the fire station.
And are we all in agreement that for more information or see stories, add the robertsfield.org?
I'm hesitant to put that in stone, in metal, because
I don't know either. Yeah.
I own the domain, so
Oh, you own the domain. Okay,
at some point,
sure.
it's going to go away. So
Or it can become a function of the park.
if you wanted to be safe about it, it would just visit townofchelmsford.us, but that doesn't really add anything to this.
Right.
Yeah, I just thought because then there's more information for the people that are history buffs, where to go. But
It's,
again, yeah, it's hard.
short
I
term
think
it's
we
good, but long term I think it's 40 years from now it's not going to
No one's going to have websites anymore. We're all just going to think, and we're going to go right to the.
Really?
But we can certainly put up, an oak tag kind of on the
Yeah.
cork board that says, for more information, go to.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry. I'm thinking the story was going on the sponsor play.
No,
You're
no,
absolutely,
no.
I'm sorry. I'm a,
But it's
Yeah, we
still
totally
pretty
could.
permanent, and that's why it's a hard.
but it's going to be PVC. We can always reprint it. So yeah, I totally would support that.
Yeah, actually,
You do want it on there?
I
Okay.
agree
That
if
was
we
in a
can.
different place.
That's okay. Yeah.
Yes, this isn't going
It's a
in metal
lot.
on a rock. This is going in plastic on
Right.
a piece of wood.
Okay.
On a
So
cork board.
yeah.
Yeah.
Works.
Because up there, you have, obviously got some information from there too.
Yeah, and the map will change, right, as things move forward. So.
Yeah, and it keeps people up to date because it's going to be an evolving story,
Right.
of what's going on here for a little while.
And hopefully, I hope you have a very long life, but hopefully Roberts Field outlives all of us. So, hopefully we can transfer a website that's for Roberts Field if you are no longer.
URLs
into-
will be like 8 tracks in 40 years.
Exactly. If you're no longer into hosting duties, you can get someone else to take over the
Okay.
All
URL.
right, so are we good for
Yeah, I'll provide that.
next
yeah.
draft? Okay.
And everybody was okay with the rules again. That was like pretty standard stuff.
I had one thing to question about adding.
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything about park opening and closing or not being there outside of normal park hours? I don't know. I don't know if that's something you want to cover here or not.
It's not a,
The playground is
Fenced
open
off.
dawn
To
to
dusk,
dusk.
that's the town's definition of it, yeah.
I think that's what I pulled
Is that
from
in the- is that
Varney.
in the rules?
yep, that's right,
Yeah.
the second one.
The order of the rules can change too,
Yeah, okay.
you know, but yeah, that's the second one that I put in
I
there.
guess you
So
covered
we're
that
not
one.
supposed to have glass bottles at the park, I guess?
That is like on a ton of signs, and it was something where I was like, I think it's kind of, you know, but the fact of the matter is, and we had people come to, like the community thing and talk about they were concerned about vandalism and like kids being there
Yeah.
and drinking, and so I just felt like
Yeah.
it's on so many. It's on like 90% of playground things. Not on all of them, but it's on almost all of them. So I thought that kind of helped to
Yeah.
reinforce that parents should not also be drinking there while they're supervising their
Well, no,
children.
I'm thinking of all of the glass water bottles that have silicone covered that people have
yeah,
these days.
I mean, I don't
or
think
like
anybody's gonna.
Nantucket Nectar, but like any of those, like that's
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking. 'Cause
Yeah. Mhm.
Did you get a chance to eyeball the, what is it, Castle in the Trees?
Oh, yeah.
Just to see if, you know, just as a checklist.
I can show you. It's on my
Yeah,
phone.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's even smaller than this. Like they say no dogs. I decided it's better to just say no pets.
That's a good call. 'cause
Right,
Service
yeah.
dogs would
Exactly.
be welcome.
and
You know, and you don't need somebody walking their cat there because that sparks a debate about, well, it doesn't say no cats. It's just,
Right.
people just do goofy
They're
things.
mini
So I tried to
Triconi.
make it very general, and I
Oh, what's
decided,
that? Just-
yeah,
They
no.
brought their
Or the
hedgehog.
young teen and their snake.
Yeah, I mean, it's, like I said, it's a goofy, it's this like line of trying to do
The only
stuff.
thing I
So
think
I-
is missing is smoking, but I don't, whatever.
That's,
I would add smoking.
yeah, I could put that easily,
I
I
would
think, as
definitely
a
add no
separate
smoking.
line.
We
If
should,
we're allowed to do that.
let's maybe just let the town come back with their
Perfect,
thing,
yeah.
right? And then, because they have it now, and we'll see, and if we'll make that recommendation if you guys want to add that, or
Yeah.
later.
I guess I'm really going to go back to, I'm assuming no one's going to haul you out of there if you bring a Nantucket Nectar into
No.
the park, but I do think that we literally have, there's a lot of glass bottles for drinks that you're, at this point, I mean, I'm all about fine with the no alcoholic beverages, and we don't want beer bottles and stuff. My guess though is that the people who are going to do that aren't going to be listening to the signs anyway.
And that's generally the case.
So I'm kind of, I would rather not say no glass just because there's a lot of people who have glass water bottles or Nantucket Nectars or Izzy sodas or I don't know, all
So
of
like
the
Bill says,
glass.
the town has it if they want it. It's truly their call too, you know, and if they don't
Is
want
it
it,
what's
they'll
on
tell us.
other parks in town?
It's,
Okay.
Well, not just in town, I mean, nationally,
Nationwide,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it varies. There's some parks, some playgrounds have like, you saw them, right? Like, just like,
oh, you know, like we will be
The 50
kind to our
commandments.
friends when they
Yeah.
fall. And like, I kind of like that. A part of me
Right.
likes that, but I also understand, again, real estate and,
right?
you
Keep
know,
it
I'm not
simple.
trying to be cutesy, just, yeah, trying to be generic. I wasn't going to say everybody follows the golden rule and, you know, so.
No drugs.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah, it's true, but it's not on here.
No, but at some point, you don't want to put the obvious.
yeah, no.
You know?
So,
And
yeah,
the
I
thing
think
is,
that this
people
is
who are
decent.
going to do certain things are going to do certain things, whether or not you have a sign that says don't do those
Yeah.
things.
So whatever the town wants on the sign is what we'll put on the sign. It's just
Right.
giving them something to start with.
Okay, so any other comments on that for now? Nothing's really changed here. I just kept it in just so we had this as a reference. Is there anything that we need to talk about? I don't have any updates for any of these things. I mentioned at the Friends of Roberts Field meeting that I went and visited, I can't pronounce it, Le Monsieur.
La Mesure.
Thank you.
Really?
Amazing.
I would have never got
Granite Quarry in Chelmsford.
I don't do French. I don't
And
know.
I left a couple of follow-up.
There's an actress who has the same last name.
I left a couple of follow-up phone calls. They showed me these stones, and these were just examples of stones that the one on the top right, top left was stones that they cut for natural benches for the city of Lowell. So that's kind of what those look for, and they've eased the edges. They do some sort of a heat thing where they heat up the edges and chip them down, and it smooths them out so you don't get cut when you sit down. The one on the top right was an example of a stone that could be used for our sign. They could cut it and then have the for the sponsor plaque, the metal
the flat
plaque,
base,
right? The one on the lower left was an example of a climbing rock that could be used. It could be used, and the picture really doesn't do it justice. It was a big stone. Depending on how you oriented it on the ground, it could be either high or low or horizontal or whatever. And then the one on the right is just sort of an example of how they could stack things. They would drill out holes in them, put rods and epoxy it together. So if we wanted to go with stacked stuff. So like I said, I've left a couple of phone calls today to get prices. I haven't gotten prices yet. I visited the quarry with a member of the Chelmsford Lions Club, and there was at least sort of side discussions about them paying for the natural stone pieces that we would want to pick up at this quarry. So the funding is still sort of not finalized yet, but there's a real opportunity that it wouldn't cost anything for us. I know there were questions at the last meeting about using the natural stone in place of the log steppers and the prefabricated GFRC structure that is in the phase 2 of the plan that Steve's got in there. That's the $18,000 for those things. I asked him, and he updated me today that those things haven't been ordered. So they haven't been purchased. And then I asked him, he said, again, you don't have the DPW endorsement on real rocks. So they're still adamant about not wanting to use real rocks. And so I asked him again, well, you know, what's the reason? And he said that the log and rock steppers are mixed together at set heights, widths, and distances to form a circle from the hillscape. And then they're made to be in a playground and are at set measurements, like he said. And I said to him that I believe that given the cost, the $18,000 cost, and then whatever the cost ends up being for these stones, which I think are going to be less than $2,000 if not donated, and then the being manufactured stones, that was inconsistent with our nature theme. And his response was, how would they be inconsistent? They're log and rock climbers. If they were fire trucks or spaceships, that would be inconsistent. So I think there's not support for real stones. I personally feel like we should use them. I don't know how you guys feel. I'm just kind of moving forward to get the prices and get the information. And then I figured what we would do is once we had all that, we would present a plan to them and then see where it nets out.
I'd be willing to go to bat for this. I mean, I feel really strongly about nothing wears more naturally than natural elements. They're not going to fall apart faster than GFRC. They don't have to be at set heights and measured. I think that's all the beauty of it. That's the beauty of nature. It's not exactly, a measured out thing. There's not a predestinationed pathway. And also, my background, my son goes to Drumlin Farm Preschool. Like, it's an outside nature preschool. They play on rocks. Like, they do things other kids don't do because they don't have the insurance thing. So if it comes down to an insurance thing, although I disagree, I can understand that. But if it's not an insurance thing, if we're saving over $10,000, probably way more like 15, I just think it doesn't make any sense. And nobody needs to really figure out exactly where they go. I think that's also the beauty of it. It doesn't have to be installed in some perfect set pattern. So there shouldn't be a headache about the installation. That's just my take. And I'm not a DPW worker, but this is a battle that I would
See,
fight.
I see this as an insurance liability issue versus if a kid falls and hits their head on the fake log or the fake stone, they're not going to crack their head open and possibly die.
Yeah. Have you felt the fake stone? It's as hard as
I
rock.
think it will,
It's
actually.
cement. It's
It
made
is?
out of cement.
See,
Yeah.
I would much rather have real rock.
It's not a liability issue that I mean, because we've asked that question and I haven't gotten anybody to respond back and say. The only thing that I've gotten response back is that if anybody's injured at the playground on anything, the town carries liability insurance to cover it.
The thing is, it's GFRC is concrete. So if you fall on
Oh.
concrete, It's glass reinforced concrete. If you fall on concrete, you crack your skull.
I was
It's the
thinking of
same. Yeah, it's not the
plastic.
Same
plastic one.
injury.
It's so. I mean, I agree. I want to go to bat for this. I actually somewhat differ from you in that I'm like, there's no reason that we couldn't pay landscape structures a small amount to give us the design specifications of what rocks we need in order to get them into a whatever the format is of, you know, they should be 18 inches, 12 inches, however far apart.
They probably wouldn't give that because that's proprietary, and I can respect that.
Well,
But I
no,
don't think it
they
has
do
to be.
design, right? They do design. They do landscape structures. Forget landscape structures. I mean O'Brien and Sons. If we paid O'Brien and Sons to give us a design for what sort of thing we needed for, you know, not $18,000, for like even $1,000, we still have so much of a cost savings on this.
Right.
And if the concern is having them set measures for climbing and whatever to make it safer, and I can appreciate that that can make it safer if it's designed in such a way that you don't have effectively a trip hazard, whatever. Like, if that would make them feel more comfortable about supporting real rock, I would say I'm okay with doing that. But again, I cannot see spending $18,000 for fake rocks
can't.
where the safety of falling on them is falling on concrete. People
Yeah.
break their skulls open on concrete
Yeah.
and die. It's
Yeah.
not any benefit in terms of, you know, that safety wise. It is it's if you play on rocks or hard things, that's a
Yeah.
risk. It is what it is. But it's rocks. I mean, the big thing is if we can't get them to support it and they won't put it in for us, then we have to. I mean, I guess I really don't understand why.
I totally agree with everything you both said. The only thing I could think of, from a safety standpoint, and you're talking about a liability, but it sounds like the real rocks are inherently no more dangerous than GFRC.
Yeah.
From everything you've said. The only thing in the design, you probably don't want to have, you know, a 5 or 6 foot ledge that they could fall from.
Right.
So you need to, you need to orient the rocks in a way that there's not going to be a large drop area. But other than that,
And I'm not thinking about us having anything that big to start with. I thought we
Yeah.
were talking about like maybe nothing no higher than like this, personally, as a rock.
the table.
Was-
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
I was thinking like lower. I mean,
But
the
you
whole
have
concept
pile-
had been like
pile
a
rocks that comes up to that.
like a stay off the lava game sort of thing where you kind of run around in a circle while staying on the rocks and whatever, I think was the theory on.
So, from a process standpoint, I think that we could, and we're just talking about the climbing rocks now, or any of these rocks, really. We could, as a committee or subcommittee or whatever, go and pick out the rocks that we think make the most sense.
Right.
But I think once we get to the positioning of them inside the playground, they're going to fall within the same rules and guidelines for fall safe zones, right? That the equipment will. So we'll have to take the measurement, you know, how high is it off the ground and how big is it, and then that'll determine what our fall zone is. So we'll still meet the same criteria as any of the other ones. So I'm with you guys. I don't necessarily see the thing. I think
I don't see it either. The only other thing that is a safety issue would be something that the quarry would help us with in terms of how they set the rebar and such, that there isn't a wedge hazard, that a kid can slip and then get their foot wedged between
sure.
certain rocks.
Wait, what rebar? What?
Well, that's one way they could do it. Bill was just showing, now I'm looking way over here, but over here.
What do you?
Sorry, the different options, right? Like,
They said
you
when
could
they
just
stack
have a
them, they
big
use
rock.
rebar and epoxy to make sure that the rocks don't slip.
But
If we go with stackables, you
if
don't
we
have
did
Right.
to.
stackables, then that would be hidden. So it would be like it's just stacked rocks that just are glued in place, basically.
I mean, the only
I don't even
difference
see the need
between
for stacked rocks. A
If you
couple
wanna go
big
high.
boulders,
Yeah.
good to go.
the only difference between JFRC is if you have a pointy thing, right? That's about the only thing where I can think of is you won't have everything will be rounded. We just need to make sure there aren't sharp
Sharp edges.
edges.
Yeah.
They do that with the heat things.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I assume they know how to
Okay, so yeah.
So from a process standpoint, and I just so everybody's on the same page, I'm going to try to move forward and get all the information together on price and things like
Okay,
that.
thank you.
We'll put together a recommendation for what we agree, what we want to do as a board, and then make the recommendation and kind of take it from there. I mean, I think if this case was made to the public, I think it would kind of be a slam dunk, but especially since the stuff isn't already budgeted for, the faux stuff isn't budgeted for.
Right,
so.
it's already over budget. So.
Right. So
Yeah, I would
That's
agree
where we
with
are.
you.
So if anybody's interested in kind of a follow-up visit to the quarry to pick out things and look at things, that'll be something that'll be coming up down the road.
So if we don't get support from them, I mean, how does this work? If they won't ever endorse it, does that mean we say, let's use these, and they're like, well, you find a way to get them to the playground installed?
I would guess that then we would kind of go to a mediation thing where we would talk to the town manager and try to figure out a way to make everybody happy, which is, understandable and doable.
Or you get a contract and put it in for a lot less than $15,000.
Yeah, or we. I mean, they have the machinery to move the stuff from the
quarry?
Mazier.
Measure.
Ray has the machinery to move the stuff from the quarry to the site and get it installed, and the DPW has the same because they've done it for. And I checked with them on this with the quarry. They have the same equipment. They did it for the center garden. So, it'll just cost more because we'll have to pay the quarry to do it. But if the DP,
It will still be less than the GFRC.
yeah, and if at the end of the day, if it's what the public wants, then it's the public. So.
I'm just scanning an article about the advantages of GFRC, and just looking at it very quickly, it sounds like the advantages kick in when you're dealing with a much larger thing you're trying to build, like a whole backyard where you're trying to have a whole huge wall 40 feet high or something like that. When you're dealing with something small like this, it sounds like, it's, that's the impression I got. I mean, just reading for a couple of minutes that they're talking about how difficult it would be to use real rocks to build up a massive structure.
Right. But individual stones.
But I think, I mean, we're not talking about, as in my personal opinion, we're talking about like 12-inch stones, 24-inch stones,
Yeah, hopping
maybe
stones.
36-inch stones. But like, I'm not thinking anything. I think we're thinking something on the scale of the hillside climber or smaller that's next to it, right? Where people can climb on them or like hop between them, right? I guess hopping between them was my biggest theory of why they were going to be in the orientation. And so as long as they're in such a way that kids can hop between them, I mean.
Or have some to hop around on and some just to climb.
That's true. Hop between
Right.
them or not, it's going to be dictated. It's all, for me, all the proprioceptive of like, can I do this? Learning my limits.
Yeah.
That's too far. I got to get down and run around for that one.
Right.
This one I'm going to go for.
Exactly.
So this is the they're so
Yeah.
small. This is the structures.
Log steppers.
I mean, they're cool. Don't get me wrong. I just think not for that.
Hey, I
price.
was voting for GFRC before almost anyone else here knew what GFRC was. I'm all about that if it makes sense. But this is not a circumstance where it
Makes sense, yeah.
So I mean that's the size and scope that I was looking for when I was going to look at the rocks.
Awesome.
So
The one on the left is pretty sizable.
I was going to say the one on the left is bigger than I was conceiving of
Yeah.
for what we were doing.
but I was basing it off of what was in the plan. So if we want to go smaller, we just need to talk
One
about
big
it.
one, some smaller ones.
Right,
A
I could
mix.
see
It should
one
all be
big
a
one
mix.
and then a variety of smaller ones
Right.
around. That's
Right.
Yeah.
In the circle.
Right.
So.
Well, thank you for taking the initiative to
Yeah.
do that because
Yeah.
it's a huge cost savings and I think truly only improves. Not only does it cost less, it's better in my mind.
yeah.
Yeah.
So. And I don't know if I'll have a chance to go there with you or not, but I can certainly help. Like I said, this is something I feel I would go to bat for.
And I'd love to go to the quarry. It just depends on the day you
Sure,
want to go.
I'll let you guys know. Any other comments or questions on this?
Yeah, we're supposed to be building a natural playground, right?
It's looking very natural. It's blending in very nicely with the trees around it.
That's
Anyone
true.
Else? Have you been over there? It's looking quite.
Just for the
it's looking quite
groundbreaking.
nice.
But the color of the posts winds up just blending beautifully.
I mean, the
with the
spring,
leaves.
the spring tree, the spring leaves are basically the same color as the green that's going on, and it's looking quite nice.
Nice. Okay.
So nothing's really changed on this since the last meeting. I need to add the shade structure into this list now, but I'll do that for the next meeting.
Should we make just one more kind of line after that with natural play area, like just write July ? Maybe?
Sure. Can do
Just
that.
to help reinforce the fact that like we have not let that go. You know, we are dedicated to that.
Yep.
I mean,
So
we know that.
So
but somebody-
speaking of July, the committee's coming to a close, right? For
June 30th is the end of our term.
right,
Yeah, and theoretically the end of the committee.
because we've gotten, at least I got contacted about whether I wanted to sign up for a new committee, which I assumed there's a continuation of the committee.
yes.
Is that not?
I haven't talked to him, the town manager, about it, so I don't.
I
know
assumed if
what
they
his
contacted me,
feelings
then
are.
they were
I
considering.
mean, yeah, I got
assuming
an
that there was a new
email
committee.
saying,
Everybody.
did I want reappointment? I can look at
Um,
what the wording was.
And I guess I'm curious as to what we all envision going forward that to be.
I plan on staying involved with the town committee to continue the plan, the master plan
The
for
master
the park.
plan, yeah.
So not just the softball fields, but also the walking area and the exercise equipment for adults and stuff. I really want the 1 to 101 to happen
Yeah,
and feel that there needs to be some continuity.
well,
yeah.
From a short-term perspective, I wanna finish the playground project. I wanna get the maintenance plan done. Those
maintenance
are-
plan, right?
And then now the natural play area.
Yeah.
Those are the sort of the three things that I want to make sure to get done. And then after that, I'm on board for the phase 2, 3, whatever it is, to get it done. But if the town has a different idea of not, like if all you guys don't want to do it, then I think we could probably do it under the Friends of Roberts Field umbrella if we
Right.
had to. But I think there's benefit to having
A
the town committee with
yeah.
the interviews, with the TVs and,
Right.
The public input.
My question is, I guess we've been on a tight schedule. I don't feel like we're going to be in as tight a schedule going forward, so maybe it won't be as much of a intensive experience going forward.
It was an intense experience. It's been an intense
But
year.
I think
Yes,
there
that's
was
good
a
word.
reason for it.
Yes.
But I'm
absolutely.
thinking that we could still do good going forward with fewer meetings.
With maybe a monthly meeting, or
Yes.
even every other month, maybe.
Yeah. I
And-
just wanted to make sure that I wanted to see where everyone else was at, or whether there was something I was missing as to like, oh no, we still need to meet like.
Yeah.
No, we
Constantly.
had the accelerated timeline for the playground because there needed to be a playground in that space.
Right.
Um,
Not a pit.
and that was the expediency. I think that fundraising is going to continue, not quite at
The
an
same
accelerated
Yeah.
pace, but it's going to have to be constant.
Pace. Yeah.
Yep.
No.
Okay.
But otherwise, we're not going to need meetings every other week. We're not going to have to make so many decisions in
Right.
a short period.
I think it
of
will
time.
be. I think because I like the idea of continuity. I think there was reason for the accelerated pace, but I don't think there will be going forward. And I just wanted to see that everyone was
We all
thinking
kind of get the
similarly.
same thoughts about
Yeah.
that.
I,
Yeah.
I think there will be if we make it one, but I don't think we have to make it one.
But no one else is like, oh, that's what we need to be doing. We need
Right.
to be meeting twice a week going forward.
Right.
Yeah. There's not going to be like, where do we put the rock in the middle of the lacrosse field debates, right?
There will be, how do we get,
No, I know.
in terms of the legislature, and how do we get
Mhm.
the best use out of the offers from our representatives
Right,
and things
right.
like that.
Right.
But there's not a lot of minutia design things in the
Right.
larger scale that
So-
to the same level.
Right. So it sounds like that we're we're at least in agreement that there's a benefit to having the committee move forward.
To a
Right.
second.
Yeah, this
Yes.
email doesn't suggest that it was going to be disbanded at all.
Well, that was the original thinking, that we were going to be a short-term committee ending on June 30th, and then we would be done.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing is that it sounds like we may believe that it would be beneficial to the town to have the committee last longer than that.
And given that the town has emailed us to ask if we are interested
Yeah,
in
we
a,
didn't email
a new
them. They
committee,
showed
I
up in
assume
our
that the
email
town
box.
wanted us a new committee, and I just, as long as we're
That
all,
may have just been that may have just been a form kind of a
That's
thing
true.
too. You know
And
what
they
I mean?
used my middle name, so it felt really formal.
right.
But I just want to.
Yeah.
But is that fair to say that we all agree that it's that we feel like that keeping it going might be a beneficial thing?
Given that
to
we'd
the
already
town?
talked about there being a maintenance plan and stuff, and that's not going to be happening
Yeah.
prior to the end of this
Yeah, and
round.
it's going to be a little while for the natural play area, and I
Exactly.
agree with you. Like, I really want to stay and see that done.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
I
to
think
me.
that's
And they're very,
continuity.
they repeat the word reappointment.
Yeah.
So the town is considering that
So the question is,
that
what will
short term turns out not to be the plan we want to
Yeah.
go with.
be the next span of time? What would be the next period?
I think normally it's a year long, isn't
Yeah.
it?
They do 6 months or years.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think that we, from a short-term perspective, I think we can get the maintenance plan and the natural play area wrapped up in 6 months.
Yeah.
Right.
Pretty
Right.
quickly. And then I personally see benefit in having it go beyond that if we can to work on the
It is a Roberts Field and not a Friendship Park committee.
correct
Yeah.
to do the other stuff that we were talking about.
And the master plan, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Cool. Well, it's good we're all on board.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that
Yes.
up, so we can all like.
Because I think it's
feel
something that
that
we all
out,
need
yeah.
to
Yeah.
feel
Acknowledge
out that
yeah.
we're.
And in the same token, though, it's totally okay if we're like, you know what, I've done my time. I can't do this anymore.
For sure.
They'll find somebody else. Somebody else will step up and take a spot. You know.
Yeah.
So
I just feel like we're very close to getting it to be like we're seeing it coming to fruition, but there are pieces that aren't going to happen in the right time frame, and it would
Not
be
before June 30th.
exactly advantageous to make sure that they don't get dropped.
okay.
Yes.
So any other comments except for adding the natural play area to this timeline milestone thing?
So where are we adding it?
Just like
At the end, we'll
in July
In
question
July.
mark
Okay.
future summer.
So we're not gonna. We're not meeting again before the community build. Is that correct?
I have some dates. We can. I mean, I think we probably could. There may be some details around the community build that we need to.
Is there a reason for this committee to meet before the community build, or is that better to be a fourth?
Can we hold that until the few more slides when we
Sure.
get to that?
Sounds
This is just a quick recap. I shared this at the Friends of Roberts Field meeting, and I haven't updated it since then. And the two biggest numbers that are on here are still very, very, very fuzzy numbers, and those are the natural play area cost at $20,000, and then the engraved brick pathway at $25,000. We don't know what those are. Those are going to be the two big pieces, but I think that they're going to come down significantly. The natural play area could come down as like $1,200. I mean, the hardscape could be next to nothing. So
And we still haven't talked to like whether or not there's a company that does pathway stuff.
So we've reached out to a couple, and the couple have said, no, I'm sorry, this is my busy season, I don't have time for
Well,
it.
if we're not doing it before,
So, right, that
I
could be
mean,
an option
as I was
too.
going to say, if this is all getting pushed out anyway for the natural play area, we could say, hey, your busy season ends, what, in 2 months?
Right,
You want to come do it then? Because it doesn't look like it's going to be done in time regardless.
right.
Oh, I thought DPW was gonna lay the bricks, but I might have missed
No,
something.
no, the bricks we're talking about the natural play area.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. Got that. Sorry, I thought you were talking about bricks somehow.
No, no,
I think it
as
was
far
in
as
my
I
head.
know, the bricks are going.
they're doing
I
the
was like,
bricks.
those gotta go in before the
Yeah.
grand opening.
No,
Okay.
they're doing the bricks.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten an indication
I agree
otherwise.
with you because of the delayed thing. I'm happy to say, like, let's wait until after people's busy season and maybe
Right.
try again.
If they want to, if they're like, yeah, we're kind of really busy, like don't have anything to do in August.
Right,
Yeah, could our response say, could we follow up with you later this summer? You know, like, we're
Right.
not in a huge rush. You know, we want it done before it freezes, but
Yeah.
I still want to try to get it done before if we can, and if we can't, then we'll fall back
Before
to
the
that.
grand opening?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
I know.
we don't have a design that's in 4 weeks, and I mean, we don't have a design. We don't have anyone willing to put in the pathways, so I don't.
I also don't want to
if there's
anger
anyone
people
watching,
if they might
I
do
mean,
it later for us, but then they're turned off because we're too pushy in the beginning.
Right.
And we want to use our time realistically.
Okay.
I would love. I mean, I do have fears of what is it going to look like in that hole if we don't have a design, and we don't have anything.
Big grassy field. It won't look bad.
Well, if
Yeah,
they put, if
people-
they're at least putting down grass in that area, okay, good.
Yeah. So it'll be a big grassy field.
And we're gonna have you actually standing in the middle in a Lady of Liberty
Oh,
with
okay.
a sign,
I
like
will be the
holding a
kinetic
sign
wind
here.
shelter.
Exactly.
You know,
So you
just
didn't
keep
know
on
that.
moving with the wind. It'll be great.
That's what you signed up for.
With a big rooster on your head.
No,
Owl, an
it's
owl.
Oh, an owl, sorry.
It's not even late. We've already gotten punchy. This
All
is
right.
not good.
So,
Takes care of the kinetic problem.
real,
Well, that's
real-
what we're saying.
real-
I'm the new kinetic
Yeah, so
sculptor.
this is
I'll
good.
just get my kids to stand out there. They like just, moving.
So real quickly, I have been speaking with Heritage Construction, David Lantane, about the covered bridge entryway, and everything is still on point for that. I did hear back from a Eagle Scout who couldn't do the signage kiosk. He was interested at first, but it's too fast of a turnaround for him. So I'm actually trying to see if we can't work something out with Heritage about doing the signage kiosk as well, and maybe
we
we'll
pay
just
them for it.
Yeah.
pay them, or because it's going to be the same materials and it's going to be designed by them to make sure everything's consistent, we may be able just to find some adult volunteers with woodworking skills
To come help.
to do it.
You're an adult with woodworking skills.
I don't.
right?
That might be somebody. So we'll see.
Not to
And lots of
lace
free
you.
time.
Yeah.
But I do think that the signage kiosk is really important to have it in place
Yeah.
for a grand opening.
Yeah, I think that's
so
kind of.
I'm trying to make that work.
And then
Worry
we-
about the structure, not the signs.
Well, the signs too. So my sign guy in Rhode Island is trying to find the right type of material, and then Dave is at Heritage is also talking to his sign guy too. So it's really important that, to me at least, that we have not only the kiosk but the sign in place on the entryway as well, and then the other stuff. So
Yeah, I think it's going to look kind of. It's going to be a sad grand opening if we don't have signs.
signs. I
And
know.
and we do still need to figure out the rock sign. I mean, I think we talked about this before, but I really very much think we should have a proto plastic mock-up that looks nice, but
Yes.
is gonna last 3 months is fine.
Right.
That you can attach the rock, however,
Right.
in such a way that we can attach a metal thing later.
Command strips.
That's the plan. Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Find out about
All
it.
right.
It might even look like a metal plaque.
Which would be awesome.
Right.
That would be ideal if it looked like
It'll just be PVC, but it'll look
Right.
like a metal plaque.
Right.
Right. We can do that, I think.
that. That would be good.
So that's really the only two updates that I had there. Buddy Bench, I mentioned that Steve has got those cleaned off, and then Harrington's going to have those, so we should be good. The sandbox diggers he's ordered, so we'll see when that comes back. Fundraising update. Big news here is that we've raised $86,000 to date.
Wow.
We've got $29,000 in brick sales. Daniil, very good.
Oh, well, I didn't buy that. I just took the checks. to the bank.
You took the lion's share of dealing with $29,000 worth of people.
Where was that?
Yeah.
That's okay.
The premier sponsorships are selling very, very well. We still have a lot of feelers out there for those, but I think those will start coming in over the next 2 weeks. We're going to have as part of the publicity part of being a sponsor, people have the opportunity to have a big check picture taken. Steve's printing the checks for us.
Oh,
So when we get those checks printed, I'll mount them, and then if you guys are interested, we can have a group picture taken with the sponsors. The idea is that we would try to schedule them kind of close, because we have I think we have 8 signs now.
do we have a list of sponsors here?
There.
Oh, wow. Okay, awesome.
So I'd like to try to do them, maybe if we could, maybe do them at the park, and maybe schedule them kind of back-to-back kind of things. And what it would be is it would be a picture giving the big check over, and then there would be an interview with Tom Cristiano, the managing editor of Chelmsford News. That would be a video interview, and I think that would be it. And then all that stuff gets posted, obviously, online.
Great.
That is. Thank you to the Askenberg family for their.
Yeah, that's going to be a weird one. So we're going to have to. I'm not sure. The check's going to actually come from Janet, and I'll probably sit out of the picture. I don't know how many, but I'm definitely going to need you guys there to accept the check.
it.
Yeah.
You can accept it with one hand and hold it with the other.
Yeah.
So. No, thank you. That's awesome. And I have the check from the $500.
bronze.
And so I need to get your
Yes.
contact information that you want the sponsorship packet sent to, and how you want it done.
Okay.
And I meant to send you an email about that.
Okay.
This is really wonderful.
So
No,
the other
that's
good news is that there's probably, at least to my knowledge, I have at least 5 to 10 other people that are considering it right now. So my hope is that once we get these out in the public and posted online, it's going to encourage more people to
Yeah.
get off the fence.
Have we heard from any other companies? Because I know I've been seeding companies with pamphlets, but I haven't gotten any sort of. And are we still looking for in-kind donations, or is it now that the town has offered to pay for food, should we no longer be asking for in-kind donations?
We could take in-kind donations to offset some of the cost for the town, but we should make it a
Priority.
a focal point, really, because the town is going to pay for the food.
Which is awesome.
And
But
this-
we will need the paper goods and stuff like that, so.
I have a lot of
they're
paper
gonna-
plates.
Well, so like, if we do donuts and coffee, right? Then I'm sure the Dunkin' Donuts will give us the cups and the
Paper
creamers
towels.
and
Yes,
napkins
they
and
do all of
stuff,
that,
right?
yeah.
And the same thing with the food. If we order pizza, then they'll deliver the pizzas.
Domino's
and
gives you plates and napkins.
Okay.
so
Yeah.
I think we count on the vendors to kind of supply all that stuff. The things
Okay.
that we do need to do are,
I think it's
the-
really the drinks.
yeah. So like this, I think of it kind of as the Costco run. It's the waters and snacks, I guess, like cookies or pickles. Pretzels.
Pickles are actually amazing
Pickles are
for
fine.
preventing muscle cramps.
Oh,
And for treating them.
Yes, and for treating them.
interesting.
Yeah.
Things I never knew. We have some tables we can bring. We have a number of 6-foot tables.
Great. Do you have chairs?
No, but I have tables.
Okay. So I've
And
got.
you can get them there. That's the
I
other
can get
thing.
them there.
Yeah.
We could walk them down the hill if we needed to.
So I've got a commitment. I've got one 10x10 tent committed, and I've got another tent from the fire department that they said that would fit 3 or 4 large tables. So it must be bigger than 10x10.
I feel like we have a camping canopy type thing that we could bring down if that was useful, or if it looks too not.
Maybe
then-
when we get down the road. But I think we could use the 10x10 for registration, and then we can use the other larger tent for a food thing if we need to. And I still have a call. I need to make a call to the schools and to the library to see what they have. And I'm guessing that one of those two are going to probably have chairs and tables as well.
Okay.
So I'll follow up with that, and then I can get back to you guys with what we have on shade structures, water structures, rain structures, I guess, tables, and then chairs.
Yeah. And I had told Bill, kind of worst case, I can rent stuff very, very cheaply
Right.
from Hanscom through the military. The problem is I have
Can't
to
get it.
myself. I can't send somebody. So I'm happy to have somebody come with me, but then it's also the vehicle
Right.
fitting that
transport
many
the
things.
stuff.
Like I can't fit that many in my Acadia. So
I mean, we have a minivan if it needs that can do some level of stuff.
some, yeah, but if it comes down to like a shade tent or something, okay, fine. But chairs for 70 people, that's,
Oh, yeah, no.
that's a
That's a whole
box
other
truck
thing.
or a trailer type thing. Yeah.
And I'm hopeful that the school facilities department may have those. I mean, they do graduations and stuff, so there must be some supply. So,
Although they're doing graduation that weekend, right?
yeah. So we'll see. I don't
Yeah.
know. But if we can avoid having to drive down to Hanscom, I think that would be
Yeah.
best case.
I agree, but I threw that out there as
I was
an
just gonna
offer,
say-
but I would probably end up needing help, so it's not that great of an offer, but it's really cheap.
And I can do a water run. The problem is with my back, I can't move the flats of water.
I
So
think the best thing is going to be the big refillables. Like, I really think we should encourage people to bring a water bottle.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we can't have bottles there. I think we should have both bottles and some of the big things with
The big
spouts.
Like
Five.
igloo. spout things, like she brought her
Yeah.
Okay.
hot chocolate
I
to
was
the
thinking the kind of water bottles that go in dispensers. You can get pumps for them.
Oh, you're
I
she's talking about like Poland Springs, like a giant Poland Springs bottle, and you can get
I
a
see
pump
what
to pump at various locations.
I never knew that.
But
Stop and Shop did give us a small gift card too, so we can get some snacks or waters or something with that.
yeah,
The 2.5 gallon jugs work well for,
yeah, they have the spout on them already. You
right.
can get those.
So the sign-up page is live. We have about 10% of the jobs posted filled so far, signed up for.
Oh, they're specific.
There are assembly crews on Saturday and Sunday morning and afternoon, and then there's registration and refreshment teams morning and afternoon. There's 10, I believe, refreshment crews, teams, members.
I think you have some more. Some people will probably go make themselves more useful elsewhere if they're able, you know.
Yeah.
And if you have less, you just make do.
I think there's an opportunity if we want to assign folks jobs ahead of time for the refreshment team that they could start gathering all this information and ordering and stuff, because I think we're going to need to turn over to the town, if not an invoice, some sort of a itemized list of this is what we need to check for to pay. You know, if we go to Zesties or something, this is what we're going to.
I guess that was going to be my next question: is how do we do it? Are they buying it, or are we are buying it and they're reimbursing us? Is that...
we could do it that way. My preference would be not to tie up Friends of Roberts Field funds in it and to have the town actually write a check. So as much as advanced stuff as we can do to just say, we're going to order, X amount of pizzas from Zesties and this many whatevers from Zesties, and it's going to cost this much money, and then go ahead and have the check written out and give it to them.
This many waters from
town.
Costco, which costs this much money. And
Yeah, that would be ideal.
Running out of food, I have found, isn't the worst thing. It's when you run out of water. Like people can get hungry and either deal, go home, whatever. But when they,
yeah, we
if
want to
it
make sure
is
we have
hot,
plenty of water.
So we buy water. There's the possibility, the day of to have to run over and get more. But yeah, we can do it. So I had told Bill, I can prepare these lists kind of ahead of time and figure out where we're gonna get things from, and just keep it very simple.
I can do a Costco run.
Okay.
So
Awesome. I'll hit you up. I was going to see, I think you had told me, I know I asked you if you wanted to build.
yeah, I want to build.
Because, I would be willing to kind of, man the registration. I like building, but I might be better served there, and I didn't know if you had any.
Yeah, the only place I'm helpful at all is the
So-
registration and refreshment team.
So maybe you and I can kind of, I go registration or refreshment and you do one, try to divide
Yeah.
and conquer, run point on that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And then, I don't know if Stephanie and Heather, but from Friends of Roberts Field, if they are interested in any of that. Otherwise, we'll just
Okay.
see who signs up with us. But
Okay.
we can be in touch and figure
It sounded
out.
like you said you already had 10 people sign up for registration.
That's what I had asked for. I had 10
Oh,
spots.
oh, I misunderstood. I
Yeah.
thought you were saying that
I think in
10
total
people
there's
already signed
4,
up.
maybe,
Okay.
right now.
right now,
Yeah.
signed up.
Okay.
How many?
And I
4.
haven't signed up yet.
Yeah.
4 people for a refreshment team.
Yeah. And truly, you don't generally need that many. That kind of comes in waves, and
Yeah.
so like I said, so if some people wander off for a minute and come back when
And
they're
people
needing-
can, for refreshments, it's mostly self.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think the refreshment team will probably be kind of like the Gophers for the assembly team too. So they may be making walks out into the work site to pick up trash or to help do whatever needs to be done. That's not necessarily assembly. So you wouldn't be necessarily tied to signing in people or filling water bottles or. But
Because I think the refreshment team and the registration team, you're going to have periods of high busyness, but then there's going to be hours of nothing.
Absolutely.
right,
So-
getting the food set up and getting all the service and all that set up is going to be, but in between that and lunch may be a low time that you can then
You've
spend time
got 7
picking up
a.m. is
trash
when
or
the first
Exactly.
start, and then you have lunch at 5 hours later.
Exactly.
You're going to need some.
Yeah.
I mean, there's coffee in there
Yeah.
somewhere.
And I've already had a lot of inquiries from people about, I want to help, but I can't do a whole shift. And I've already said I tried to make that really clear, that is okay, and please do it. The benefit of you pre-registering is we need an idea to plan for, but also if you want that t-shirt, you can come. There may or may not be a t-shirt for you, and we will take you for any amount of time, like 1 hour, 2 hours, whenever. But if you could maybe try to pick a shift or shoot us an email just so we can, you know, better plan for it. That's helpful, but you don't have to. Just come.
So for the time being, until we get closer to it, I think we came to 70 people per shift, planning for food and waters and shade and stuff.
Yeah, I'm thinking that might still be high. I'm thinking maybe it's more like 60, but
I guess what's the downside to over planning for if the town's paying for the food? You know what I mean?
I would rather not run out of food and water
well, yeah, I wouldn't either.
in terms of for estimates. I mean,
So because you have the workers, right, which is 50, and then the 10 refreshment.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, and then
DPW.
6 to I think they said 5 to 8 people from O'Brien,
Okay.
and then any DPW people that show up, and then the people that aren't signing up that may show up too. So
Right. I
I
think
know 70 seems
is,
like a lot, but at least we kind of are covering our base.
and it's not like we're doing like individual sandwiches. We're doing pizza.
Exactly.
And donuts.
I happen to have an insulated bag from when I was catering, and for warmth, you throw one of these hand warmers in, and it will help keep the
Some of the pizza there
warm.
good longer.
Hoping it's June and the pizza will just stay warm, but not
Well,
too
no.
warm.
See, that warm is bad.
That warm
Right,
is bad.
you want warm,
yes.
warm. You want hot, warm.
Yeah, you want
And I
hot,
had thought
not
too,
warm.
I would do the same thing from Domino's and go pick up to make it cheaper. But I think, given the logistics of how many pizzas it is, Bill's right. The town's paying; they just need to deliver it
Oh,
to
yeah.
us.
Keep it off our table.
Yeah.
Right? Just let them.
Yeah.
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 So,
So she and I can coordinate. We'll spearhead one of us registration, one of us
Yeah.
food. We'll prepare this list, get it to the town.
We have to agree on what types of pizzas. That's a whole different.
I don't think we need to agree on it. I don't think there has to be a discussion about everything. I think there's going to be a plain, a cheese, something with vegetables.
Sausage and mushroom, yeah, or something like that.
Yeah, and then something with meat, you know, like so that people that don't eat meat have something without meat. Like
Neil's got it right. Just
It'd be
I've
safer.
done big events
Yeah.
before. Like I'm not a total. You can't plan for everybody. People who have really strong preferences, sensitivities, allergies, they're used to bringing their own food.
Yep.
They're not, you know, nobody's
And-
wanting Wolfgang Puck, like, you know.
And personally, I think if we skipped meat, the pizzas will be safer.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
fine with
For
skipping
out on
meat.
June, in the middle of June,
Cool.
we might be less likely to poison people.
Yeah.
We might be. We also might really anger the men who are there to build. Not that my husband will be there, but
Well, if you do a pepperoni's pretty shelf
Yeah, that's
stable.
already
Yeah.
cured.
So you might just stick with pepperoni,
Yeah.
even though other
Yeah.
things are tastier, just in terms of not.
yeah, I don't think it needs to be like too overthought.
Yeah.
You don't need to bring all 70, how many pizzas are you gonna?
At once, that's the thing. I'll have them bring it
you
in
know,
waves.
Depends on how many people, and you can go out and get a dozen and.
Yeah, I'm gonna make some quick calculations on how many we need, and then I'll break it down into flavors and
I think we're going to be
two,
ordering
maybe
ahead
three
of time.
flavors,
Yeah.
We're
and
not
they'll
gonna be
know like
ordering
it
day
needs to
of.
start. Oh yeah, exactly.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh yes, you don't want to come in on a Saturday and be like, "Hey, I need, 20 pizzas."
Oh, I got that coordinated. Like I'm used to this part. This is I do this all the time.
So for the Costco part of it, I just want to circle back. So you said that you were open to going to Costco, and
I'm opening going to Costco. I just want to know what the funding situation is.
Yeah, we're gonna
before-
get a list to you and
Okay.
money to you.
so
Okay.
at Costco, what are we looking for from Costco? Waters.
You can do snacks and waters like I did.
I think
for
we're
the-
looking for waters, but we need to also keep it really simple with snacks, like chips or pretzels in the prepackaged bag. I hate doing stuff like that because I don't know, it's like the trash thing and environmentalist.
Yeah.
But that's really the best
We need
thing in
trash
this
cans.
situation.
How do we get trash cans?
That'll be the facilities guys. So we'll get them to give us trash bags, trash cans, and
recycling bin for water bottles.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so we'll have to get that.
I mean, we have one of those big 64-gallon things. That's what we have 2 of those for recycling, so I could bring one of those.
So you
down
guys
if
will
they don't have
will
one.
do
Yeah.
the coordination
Yeah,
with
we'll take care of it.
whatever the Costco run
Make
is.
it simple.
Yeah.
So we have all the meals covered then, and all the snacks covered.
Yeah.
And then I'll take on the
Oranges, things like that.
shade tables and chairs.
Okay.
When do you think we'll know about the Costco run? Because I need to figure out when I'm gonna.
I mean, I can do that in the next day or two here. I'll probably try to do it before my mom leaves on Thursday, so.
And you might want to do a pre-run just to see how like if you get the Pirate Booty stuff, how many bags come in a box and whatever that, so
I
you
can
can
look
figure out how
online.
many, because then you're going to have to get a cost estimate, and then if the town's going to, I don't know how that's going to work,
Yeah, do we have a budget?
no.
Not yet.
But we'll have to develop one and then give it to them and get their
And if
approval.
there's something we really want and Costco isn't carrying it, I've got a membership at Restaurant Depot.
Okay.
It's not particularly at cut rate.
Sure.
I don't know what the water situation is for Costco in terms of how they sell their
Yeah.
water.
Before you move on,
Yeah, I'm just looking up something real quick. Go ahead and, go ahead.
I
Say,
just want to talk for a second about the actual build process. If there's going to be, first thought I had in mind is anyone from O'Brien going to be kind of preparing some of us about what the processes of doing the build are going to be? And I'll give you an idea of some questions. I saw you had what is it, a 3 ratchet driver.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't make sense. I mean, if you need that, you probably need a dozen of them, I'm guessing. I don't know.
Yeah, well, they said that was the number one thing that they recommend is that everyone try to bring one of those because that is the most useful tool for the
They
pieces.
provide this special
How
bit.
about a power driven? If you've got a drill that has that,
Yep, that's
Yeah.
on the list too.
That's fine. We just need a.
am I missing out on this, or should I be knowing more about this?
I don't expect you to know everything.
No, I mean, they said that they were bringing bits. They said that they were going to bring their specialized bits because it's special locking, security bits.
When
or
a
whatever they
volunteer
call it.
goes to the sign-up site, there's a tool list there that tells them these are the tools we're looking for, and the ones that are particularly of importance. O'Brien, told us have an asterisk, and it says that the ones with stars are really critical. So when you show up for your shift,
If you
please.
already have one, please bring one.
Okay. Where would I find this list?
It's on the sign up thing online.
robertsfield.org/sign up. And I'll,
take you to a site.
there's a couple of questions that I have as well too on the tool stuff. And
Yeah.
I was going to follow up with Megan about, but I will share that with you if I find anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I just got these. Are we done with the community build discussion for now?
I think so.
I just got these. I haven't seen these. So these are from John.
Awesome.
Oh, is that something he actually got printed?
It's a
That's-
mock-up. So he just threw that design on there and it makes it look like it was printed.
Sure does.
I was going to say, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a 2-color too.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of pine trees.
Oh, I like that.
That's pretty cool. It definitely gets the net. It
It
gets
really
the actual,
resonates.
It's got the tower and the Netflix and the.
Mm-hmm. And the covered bridge.
I'm not a huge fan of the colors personally, but I like if you did that in green, I would be.
Did what in green? The
pink.
FP?
Is that pink or red? Whatever. Get like one of those internet argument. What color is it actually? But
Green, something like-
if you did that in green with the blue, then I
Yeah.
would be all for that.
And what if it were a colored shirt instead of a white?
I would be.
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as the
But-
colors worked.
But what paint color would you want?
Like if it was a dark shirt, white
Yeah.
paint color.
I would do
Yeah.
a blue shirt with white where the blue is and green where the pink is personally, but that's
Okay.
just my gut. Whatever.
And there's the back with
Sweet.
the logos and names.
Okay.
So we're putting sponsors.
And we'll probably need to add Spectre Textiles.
Right.
I was gonna say, I didn't realize we were putting playground sponsors on the T-shirt. I thought we
Yeah.
were putting T-shirt sponsors on the T-shirt
Yeah, that's...
because that's a lot of sponsors on the T-shirt.
What's the downside to that, though? I mean, because it gives the sponsors recognition. That was kind of what my thinking was, at least.
Yeah, but they're already getting recognition. The T-shirts aren't for recognition, in my mind, for the playground sponsors. We didn't say, hey, by the way, it's going to be on all the T-shirts. We're saying it's going to be on a permanent plaque at the field.
Bill, this would definitely go against what we talked about.
And I could take your name off. And then have named recognition on, well,
I don't know. I
I
thought
would-
when you mentioned that putting a sponsor on the T-shirt, usually to me that's the T-shirt.
Who printed them?
It's who sponsors the T-shirt gets the T-shirt sponsor. Gets that. I wouldn't personally put all of the playground sponsors on the T-shirt for the community build because these are for the community build shirts. These are people who are volunteering
to build a playground.
to build the playground.
That these guys have all paid a lot for.
Yes, but
And are a big part of the whole.
But they
project.
will be recognized another way and in a far more permanent way. The analogy is what you've done is pretty much what Sully's does for the road race.
Sure.
Where they put all, but they don't have a permanent place to put all their sponsors otherwise.
I think we're doing a disservice to the sponsors if we don't put them on the shirts.
we weren't even going to do
Do
shirts.
they-
Well, we are
sponsors
doing
want-
shirts.
Want their names floating around town on a T-shirt? I don't know, maybe they do.
I don't think you do, but I think the
don't,
others
but
do.
I don't think, I'm wondering if the others do.
Yeah,
You think
the
so?
ones that I've talked to do.
They do? Okay.
So you've already talked to people about.
I've
putting their
talked to
names on
Christopher's, I've
t-shirts.
talked to Ready Real Estate, and I've gotten the other logos from the other sponsors, the ones that are up there, yes.
I guess I didn't think we'd talked about doing this, and you've already talked to the sponsors about doing it before we talked about it here.
What's the downside? I don't see the downside to having the sponsors on the shirt.
Lot of ink, it's busy.
It's on the back.
Yeah.
And it fits, and like you said, it's what sponsor shirts normally have.
If you're sponsoring an event,
Like a road race,
like a specific event,
Which this
There's-
is.
no, this is the community build
This is
day.
the commemorative T-shirt for the community build. That's how we're billing it. That's what we've said so far, at least in the print stuff.
But these were going to be given as to people who were volunteering their time, so I see it as like,
will they want to walk around with everybody's name on their back?
I don't know why not. Why would you walk around with a shirt from a road race with everybody's name on the back? I don't see that as a negative at all. I mean, that's a community thing.
I look at this and it doesn't put a place of prominence for the people who paid for the T-shirts. I think.
But is that for sure? That's for sure happening? Somebody really is going to give us all the money for T-shirts?
Not all the money, but they,
Let me share with a conversation that I had with one of the people who were paying for that. They didn't care if they were on there or not. They just want to help the project,
okay.
right? So I don't see that as I don't think that they're going to have their. And I asked specifically if they were opposed to shared sponsorship, and their response was, "I just want to help the project." So I don't think that it's gonna affect their decision to do it or not. The three that are up there that are basically going, two, possibly three that are paying for it, don't have an issue with sharing the space.
what do you think, Danielle?
I see it going a lot of ways in that if more people sponsor too late, I don't want them to be upset that they're not on the shirt because fundraising is ongoing. I would say that's my number one concern with doing it. right, because we have to have a cutoff. It's just like with the brick things. You know, it would be a shame if you didn't get me a brick. I've lived in this town 35 years. I'm sorry you missed the cutoff. Like, there's nothing I can do. Like, these shirts are already printed. I can't change the print and add a new sponsor because you gave this to me.
Which is actually an incentive to
Not really. It is.
get off the fence, which is kind of how we're using it.
It
right?
is.
So
To
it
some
helps-
people-
It helps the tool that we're using it.
It
as.
helps. It sometimes, but there's just always people that, you know, fall through the cracks. I'm just telling you my experience from the brick thing, you know, and then you feel bad, but like, there's really nothing I can do. So that's my biggest concern with it. I guess I wasn't like in these t-shirt design discussions, and I was okay with that because I had said I didn't want a t-shirt. And so how we do the t-shirt to me truly doesn't matter much.
Okay.
I think if these people want their name on it and they've already been told their name is on it, we need to honor that. Now, whether or not we agree with how that happened, that's okay, and that's a separate discussion, but it can't be undone. So if there's certain
Well, that's
people,
what I was starting to realize, is that if it's already been sold to people, then we really,
Yeah, we
I
can't
can
we need to
be
honor it.
cranky about it all I want, but we can't go back on it, but that bothers me.
And, you know, these people have given, you know, money and time. And so if, like I said, if they were told that they were going to be on it, and if Bill has already said, like Barry said, he would like to come off, that's fine. But if he asks and everybody else would like their name to remain, and they've already been told their name is on it, then I think that we need to honor that, you know, what was already told to them. And I hope we don't run into the situation of, here's my check, now print my name. Sorry, the shirts are gone. Like, we can't add it. Here's a sticky you can stick on them all.
I saw the volunteer shirts as partially a gift to the volunteers, and this is because they're putting in their
As opposed
sweat.
to promotion.
as opposed to promotion. So that's why I like, if we were getting someone who was giving us a donation so that we could actually have t-shirts, then having a small discreet, like, you know, thank you to the person who sponsored the t-shirt, I thought was appropriate, and I thought that's what we were talking about for sponsors on a t-shirt, because it would be a sponsor of the t-shirt. But again, if it's already,
Some people
And
want
it's
recognition and some
sponsors.
people don't, and I think that's okay. And so it's trying to please everybody, and so there's not a ton of people on it. So I think it's just about, you know, if they've been contacted and told something, we honor what they've been told. If
Yeah,
if
but
they
if we've
haven't
already-
been contacted and they don't, then we need to contact them and
well,
say,
that's the thing, we need to make sure everyone involved so far has equal opportunity.
How many people have been contacted and sort of promised this?
I don't know. I don't know the number.
If you go back, do you know who you've talked to?
No, I don't know. Either we do or we don't. So
It's been promised, we have to.
Okay.
I think we
Do you
honor.
need to add Western Nurseries? Have they done enough to?
I asked them, I let them know that they needed to make a decision if they wanted to have their name on the shirt.
And we need to add the company donating the rest of the money for the shirts.
John has that direction.
Okay.
Yes.
We're all in agreement that we love the front. So I
Yes.
think that's a positive thing.
Well, I think this is a positive too, and frankly, I mean, I understand you're upset, but there were emails that were shared that there were opportunities to talk about this that I didn't get a response back. So
About sponsors.
the design and stuff. So
When
you know,
is that
all
sent
this
out?
stuff goes on at a fast
I'm-
speed. So
Yes, it does, and I would like to know when that's sent out, because I didn't see a thing about the sponsors.
I couldn't tell you because, quite honestly, I've just ignored the shirts because, like I said, I'm okay with whatever everybody decides. So
So, do you have a preference for this front? You can't see it.
I like the other, yeah,
Yeah,
the FP versus the,
yeah.
Is
Weekend.
that
The other
front-
one.
yeah. I mean, it's not that that one's bad. I just really like the other one.
and this
Have people change the color to green?
I would change the color.
Yeah, that works.
Do you
Green-
need
green
spacing
would make
between
sense
the
in terms
F and the P to make it look like an F and a P, or do you get that that's an F and a P?
I didn't, it took me a minute.
Spacing, like a slight
I
space
got
would be
it.
fine to me, but
Yeah, just a hairline space would be nice. That would be my thought, Bill.
Is there anything else that needs to be added to this, messaging wise?
It says July 2 to 3.
Yeah,
Oh, that
Versus
might be
June.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
that's a slight.
I'm almost wondering if we could just take that part off, because what if something happens that changes our timeline too?
Good point. Yeah.
Like, could we just put
June?
June 2018 just in case?
Yeah.
I mean, well, I also worry about that because Steve has always said his fallback is like, oh no, that's for opening July 4th, not for building.
2018
Yeah,
would be
I think,
done with it.
no, I think June 2018 we're safe. I was thinking that July 4th, but that was for his grand opening, not his build, so it'd still get built.
Any
We do that. It's awesome.
volunteer messaging, anything else that needs to be added to it?
Not in the
Playground's not on here. Do we need the word playground anywhere?
No.
Roberts Field's not on here. Do we need that?
No.
If we do.
Because it's
could
really
do
about the
f-
playground being built. You know, it's about Friendship Park being built.
Unless you want to add the line underneath Friendship Park that says at Roberts Field. Because
think
that's the
it'd be-
official name.
It is. I think it just gets busy personally. But
Yeah. Keep it simple.
could you
And
almost
that's the
add Friends
beauty-
of Roberts Field as a sponsor? An in-kind donation of our time? Probably.
Yeah, I think fourth should be on there.
I think if we
I
put
think
that on
Friends
the
of
back
Roberts-
with the sponsors, I think that's fair.
And the
given
town seal too, right?
Right.
the town seal. Yeah, yeah, DPW or something. Or not DPW, yeah, town seal.
The one thing I think would have been an improvement is if you just used the current Friendship Park logo. And then just said community build underneath
Where? On this
it.
shirt?
Instead of the FP, yeah, just the Friendship Park logo, and then underneath, Friendship Park, Roberts Field, which is all part of the logo thing anyway.
Yeah, you
and
don't
say
need the
community
big
build.
letters in color. Or in a second color. The great part about this design is its simplicity
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and the use of negative space. When you've got the F and P back there, it's no longer negative space.
Do you guys have a preference for t-shirt colors?
It's tough, right? Like, it's dirty or like easier, but at the same time, if it's dark, you get hotter. So I don't really have a preference.
There is a huge array of color choices, but we could go with a natural color and then
Like a tan.
Forest green.
a beige. There's a forest green, there's a dark
I
chocolate
personally
brown.
look good in forest green, so I like forest green.
I was gonna say, I'm not really, don't wear a lot of beige, but
Yeah, I don't like beige.
But I think actually beige, as much as I don't like, I think beige with dark green would actually be pretty nice for this.
Well, you could do green with dark green with beige for the writing.
Yeah, like I kind
I
of
think the ink is white,
This,
not an off-white.
so.
So
I
a
have to check.
lighter colored shirt, is that what I'm hearing? Or a darker colored shirt?
I would go with something darker personally. I'm not a big fan of white t-shirts. But I don't know. Dark blue, dark green. Those are the ones I would gravitate toward personally. But they don't show crap as much. So
Like dark green, dark brown, dark blue?
I think any of those, I don't really think you can go wrong. You know,
If you go dark, you're gonna have a problem with the logo that he's done, now he's gotta figure out how to rework it.
I'm sure he would just do it in white.
put it in white, I think. But I don't know. I certainly don't want John, you know, he's already given a whole lot of his time. I don't want him to spend too much.
You could wrap him around a tree with decisions if you're not careful.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, this is some of it's washed away, but this is stuff by the company we're using. So we could
Can we see
do
the front?
black and then gray.
Yeah, that gray does not show up on that very well.
Well, that's because this has been laundered for 6 years and it's wearing off.
Can I see the front? Sorry.
But I mean, if we did a forest green, we could then do white with a yellow large lettering if we wanted to keep the large lettering.
What would you use for yellow?
F and P would be in yellow.
Oh.
And then everything that is black lines would be white lines.
Aren't they blue?
Blue on green?
Is it, no, I'm asking if that's blue currently.
I believe so.
It looks like it, but hard to
Oh, it's blueprint? Okay.
So I think we just change it to June 2018, right? Like, just to make the list and keep it moving. June 2018, depending on his time. Align with the FP, or you just want the FP gone? What is it that you guys are wanting?
I like the addition of it. I don't know, it needs some sort of a line between it so that you know it's an F and a P.
Right.
Okay, so keep FP.
Because it looks like PP.
Put a PP. We don't want a PP. Put a line there. And add the Forf and town logos to the back of the shirt.
And then dark green, dark brown, dark blue. Is that what we're saying? Preferably?
Yeah, one of those with, it sounds like white.
Yeah, I mean, I would say one of those with whatever color works best with printing that's available. I don't know.
Okay. And quantity. We are still looking for costs that will really define what the quantity is going to be, but we're thinking like 250. So that's how did it break out? 120 of workers per day, and then all the people from O'Brien want shirts, and then the DPW is going to want shirts, so that should be pretty close to 250.
Is it 120 per day?
Because essentially it's we have a morning shift. In the
Yeah.
morning shift, 50 people building, 10 people registration refreshments, if they all get signed up, but that's
Yeah.
kind of how I envisioned it. So if you have that many in the morning, 60 in the morning and 60 in the afternoon.
Are we going to turn people away?
We're not turning people away. We can't afford to turn people away. That's not going to leave
To
a
assemble?
good taste in somebody's
Yeah.
mouth. I showed up to build it and they turned me away.
That's why I'm trying to.
Yeah.
But
They
if-
may not get a T-shirt. It does say if you don't register ahead of time, you may not get a T-shirt.
Right.
So, I mean.
And I've already had people asking when they can get their T-shirts, so they're looking forward to it.
So I assume if you tell John we want to do a dark blue, dark green, dark something, I assume he would come back with colors that he thought worked on.
You must be watching at home.
John.
Oh, he just said that to you. I like it.
He cracks.
That's awesome. Thank you, John.
So he solved the line between the F and the P.
And he did the green.
Yeah.
And he fixed it to June.
The only problem is it's not on a green.
Three colors.
Yeah.
But I think they can't they screen the same color for the same cost? Like they screen it differently. We'll have to ask them.
I don't
Yeah,
know
I'll have to ask.
I think they just screen it differently, so it's the same color, but it just only so much goes onto the print.
But that's still, I like it if we're doing a white t-shirt. If we're not doing a white t-shirt.
Right, or a natural T-shirt, like a bone colored shirt would work with that,
That's true.
Okay.
but not a dark. So
Clearly, John's onto it.
Yes, thank you, John.
He's gonna get it. He got it done. He always comes through. He's good at that. So that's
And the other thing is, this company has an art department. So if we send them that, and we say we're going to choose one of these three colors, they will come back to us with some suggestions
great.
as to colors.
okay.
okay. So any other discussions around community build for now?
I don't
Nope.
think so. I think we're actually way better than I thought we were.
So these are the dates that are available for room 205 and
That one.
for telemedia. Yeah,
Okay.
our other room. Do you guys want to try to meet before the community build? Is there a need to?
I would love to say yes, but I honestly don't know when I can fit that into my schedule. And I think I'm feeling better, like I can get stuff done here with emails.
And that, you have dates going through to the end of June, but the community build is the 2nd and 3rd.
Oh, it's a good
Yeah,
point.
none of these are
sorry.
before
I was
the
thinking the
community
grand
build.
opening.
Definitely think we should have one before the grand opening, so we're all kind of
Yes.
on
Yeah.
board
Okay, that's what I meant.
before that. But before the build, I think we're just gonna be. I'll
So
have to be
basically,
checking my phone more than I usually do.
We don't
or at
have
least try.
any. We won't have a design for the natural play area before the community build day.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, we won't have a design we've agreed on because we're not going to meet.
Mhm. That's true, but I think we already said we were just gonna have to be kind of prepared for that.
I mean, I think if it fits within the things that are on that previous slide, I think we've agreed that that's okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where did they go? I mean, my expectations are that that would be the tree protection zone would be in the entire green space, and the hardscape would be around that. If it kind of fits within that, then it kind of no.
If it meets that and it meets the previous things we said where it doesn't
For all the things that are on the sheet on this.
form some weird symbol or as in not 4 paths.
No, I would agree with that, and that
Okay.
I'd like to give him some.
So going back to the date before the grand opening, what day works for you guys?
So we're looking at the 23rd and 24th for the opening.
So maybe the 14th or 12th or 18th.
A Monday. For me, the 14th is a little bit better.
Yeah, I have something on the 14th.
Okay. Is the 18th?
I haven't put anything on here yet, so
I hear you.
for me, evenings are usually just the same.
That's true.
If we met on the 18th, does that give us enough time before the
A week.
Saturday?
I think so.
Okay.
Besides just, opening,
Otherwise,
what do we
is
have
the 12th better for you?
planned for that? Are we planning any refreshments or anything else there, or?
For the grand opening day?
I think
Yeah.
I'd love to start thinking about it, but we really just got to get through
the
this
build.
first. Like,
Well-
I don't have that capacity to multitask right now. I wish that I did, but I don't.
But if we did, then we would need a second meeting.
well, I
One
think
to
we need
do
a
the
meeting.
general plan, and then
I don't-
that Monday to
I mean,
make sure we.
No, I think we only need one meeting to plan it out and
We
get
pulled
it.
off the groundbreaking with refreshments and stuff. So
Okay.
I think we can do it, and we did
yeah.
the same at the last day to play. Like,
Right.
we'll be able to
Okay.
bring it together. We only need one meeting before that. We don't need
Okay.
two. And
We can use we can communicate our plans for the grand opening and agree on things as FORF members.
Right. So the 18th, is that the next meeting date? June 18th?
That, I think, works for me.
Okay.
Monday, June 18th, and I'll go ahead and book everything. And we'll do for room 205, not 204 or 206.
so today we're actually in 204, but we thought it was 206.
I
Okay.
thought it was 206.
Again, note-taking purposes. Not that anybody's gonna drill me for it, but trying. Okay.
Okay, meeting, you sent out the meeting minutes for May 2nd. Everybody have a chance to review those, and we have any changes?
The rated versus raised.
Rated versus raised, yep. I'll make that change, rated versus raised, but I haven't heard anything else from anybody.
That was the only thing I noticed.
Nothing caught my attention, so.
So I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I'll second. Or
No.
no, I will make a motion to approve.
I will second.
I
In favor, aye. Great, aye. All right, and that is it.
and my apologies, I just found the email about the shirts which I missed.
Sorry.
There's a lot of emails.
Yes.
It's hard. Okay. So
Alright.
expect an email
Yes.
from me maybe
guys good?
tomorrow about breaking down this registration.
So can I
Oh,
entertain a
yes.
motion to
Yes,
adjourn?
sorry about that. Motion
I move to adjourn.
seconded.
I
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yes.